the world of myriad spider nests. This small secret world is under the control of the Lizhou Federation. It consists of 7 large urban bases, each of which is a unique root of the human race. Bailin, one of the largest cities in the world, has an exorbitant price tag on land. But in the center of the city, there is a private villa for the city's caretaker. Where unusual fish splash, everything in this world was unusual. Our hero recently woke up, stood in the bathroom and washed his face. More than 10 years have passed for him, but he still can't get enough of himself. His name is Bai Zi'an. He is the grandson of the caretaker of Bailin City. The guy was something of a time traveler. In his past life, he was a soldier who died on a mission. After which I ended up in this world with all these spirit animals and their owners. Well, it wasn't exactly time travel, more like a kind of reincarnation, although he did have memories of his past life. But otherwise, he was no different from the locals. A red-eyed, gold-level silver fish appeared from the wall. She told the hero that it was time for breakfast. The guy answered her satisfactorily. Before her interesting departure back into the wall, she asked him not to be late. This fish was a gold-level pet, and was the spiritual pet of his father, the strongest man in this world. The young man came downstairs. The whole family was already gathered at the table. The mother's name was Ziyu. The hero's sister was sitting next to her. The father, in military uniform, scolded the young man for taking so long to get ready. The grandfather also came to visit the family. His name is Bai Jingchun. He is the caretaker of the city of Bailin, and he also had to give a speech to the students at today's awakening ritual. Anya is taking the exam this year, so she will take part in the ceremony. Father and grandson will go to the awakening hall together. Grandfather was happy about this event. The guy was also happy. He had been waiting for this awakening ceremony for a long time. Its full name is the annual Lizhou Federation Spiritual Beast Awakening Ceremony, and it is held to help young people. If everything goes well, the boys and girls will be able to enter the Beast Tamer Academy to learn more about them. If the awakening fails, then the only way for such people is to go to a regular school. The young man remarked that it was similar to the college exams in his past life, where after admission, a bright future awaits you, various activities and an increase in skill level. Anya was thoughtful. He thought it would be okay if he failed the exam. He would just live the life of an ordinary person. However, this was just a lie to console myself. This world was a Beastmaster world. Without this talent, everyone would look down on you, as this skill determined your status in this world. Previously, Anne was only worried that the god of time travel was too generous to him, since he gave him power, money, and good looks. And fortunately, a month ago, he awakened his talent as an A-rank beast subjugator. They had intuition, thanks to which he would be able to receive special premonitions, as well as better understand the thought processes of spiritual beasts. This was a great talent for a beast tamer. Its range of use was quite wide, thanks to which one could control the outcome of a battle. But of course it is easier to handle animals with it, which helps in taming them. The hero thought that the ceremony would not affect him in any way. Thanks to his talent, he was out of the risk zone. The grandfather looked at his grandson and thought that the young man's talent was indeed good. But this did not guarantee that his awakening would go smoothly. His grandson was someone whose development was being watched by influential people, and in the future he will be capable of what is beyond his powers. But the young mind lacks stability. If he ends up in that very place, the monsters will simply bite him. The old man decided to first temper his grandson before his abilities became stable. The man called his grandson sternly. He told him that he shouldn't underestimate the ceremony. The awakening godstone was a top-tier treasure, and in the entire Federation, it was the only one like it. This stone had a special ancient and dark origin. At the beginning of the new era, ferocious monsters came to them, which practically wiped the human race off the face of the earth. It was then that their ancestors discovered the Stone of Awakening, where the first generation of Beastmasters awakened their talents. Humans survived only because they discovered the era of spirit beasts. This stone is the cornerstone of civilization that looks after animals and people. To become a Beastmaster, my grandfather explained that one must go through 3 stages: awaken talent, build a space, and tame the first beast. In addition, there are young talents who come from aristocratic families or special clans, but even they are obliged to take part in the annual ritual, the purpose of which is to use the power of the stone to build a space for the beast, and asked his grandfather if the Federation should not be against such a thing. The father and grandfather were speechless from the sudden question. However, the old man only laughed loudly, saying that the Federation knew everything and simply turned a blind eye to it. However, newcomers who participated in the ceremony and awakened their talent are required to register at the Awakening Hall, and after registration, they are entered into a single register of masters. thanks to which, much less energy will be spent on awakening. Jing Chong placed his hand on his grandson's shoulder, telling him that the power of the stone was very great and it would help him a lot. An replied that he understood this perfectly well, and therefore he should take the ceremony very seriously. He had been studying beast control and talent awakening for quite a long time, but he didn't know much about the stone. Just one stone could support the wealth of millions of Federation members. It was amazing. The father was tired of these conversations. He told the boy that real men do not waste time on empty talk, and his primary task is to build space for the beast. An was taken aback by the man's sudden cry, but promised that he would do what was required of him. The mother got angry at her husband for terrifying her son, and the man became embarrassed, justifying himself by saying he simply wanted to help him set his priorities straight. The family burst into laughter at this situation. Having finished breakfast, the grandfather and grandson went to the ceremony. The driver stopped at the gate, announcing that they had arrived at the square. The old man ordered Anya to go to the awakening hall while he prepared a speech. The guy got out of the car, looking at the place where the ceremony was taking place. There was a lot of excitement. Many people lined up. Signs about the ceremony hung high in the sky. The girl waved the flag vigorously and called the Balin Academy applicants to her place with a megaphone. When Anya approached, she suddenly fell silent, and those present also turned in his direction. The girls recognized the guy as Master Bai. Inspired, they flew up to him, greeting him. Fans swarmed around the young man, asking where he had disappeared to for a month. The guy thought the affiliated college of Balin City was the most advanced in the city. Most of the students in it were descendants of high-ranking officials of the city. And of course, being the grandson of the city's lord, he was at the top of this chain. Suddenly, in the crowd of girls, some guy pushed everyone aside, clearing a path for himself. The young man in wait, Anya greeted joyfully. The guy wanted to hug the highly respected bigwig, but he dodged it in time. Puklyash plaintively told the guy that he missed him, since he hadn't shown up for a whole month. Anya asked her friend not to talk to him in that tone. Otherwise people would think they were having an affair. The hero's statement touched Puklyash. His name was Chubby Yuan, or more precisely, Yuan Potian, and he made a scene in front of all the people about how Bayan had injured him. The hero remembered that because of his nickname, he thought Yuan Potian was destined to become a hero. But as time went on, and he became more plump, everyone gave up on it. The girl suddenly called out to Bai Xiaoan, thinking that the hero was scared since he hadn't come to school for a whole month. Those present turned around at the mysterious girl's voice. It was Feng Qianyu, the daughter of Feng Yanyan, the vice president of Balin Castle, who told the young man that she would let him go if he meekly admitted his defeat. The hero remembered how a month ago, the girl proposed a bet in which the one who received the best talent upon awakening would win, and the loser would fulfill the winner's wish. Even though the girl herself suggested it, Anne agreed to the bet to see how the little phoenix would fulfill his wish. He has a good chance of winning. As in the entire Kyushu Federation, talents above A-level are rare. The girl shouted after the guy that he would be the one fulfilling her wishes, and that he should finally stop calling her that. Feng loudly declared that sooner or later, he would bow before her. Puklyash shared with the hero that he should be careful with this lady. Their family has a special treasure that helps them awaken their talents. Anya now understood why she was so confident in herself, and it was not surprising, because her family had a special background, and it was only natural that they had their own unique methods. The ceremony began. Lord Bai began his speech by greeting the students of different schools. The old man was happy to welcome the young talents. He told them that, despite the outcome of the awakening, they should continue to live normal lives and work for the common good. He wished everyone luck in waking up, and the audience responded with enthusiastic shouts and applause. The staff coordinated the students to enter the awakening hall in groups and in order. In the hall, you had to find a place for yourself. Cross your legs, and you could begin to awaken your talent. Bayan thought after the Kyushu Federation activated the Divine Awakening Stone using the spatial projection method. They project the power of the stone into the awakening halls of various regions, and this is a true miracle. Having finished his reasoning, the guy began to concentrate on the energy of awakening. He felt the energy going through his entire body. A stream of powerful energy flowed into the young man. The awakening energy is out of control. Anya realized that this was fraught with bad consequences. From such a strong flow, the young man experienced severe pain. Energy literally poured into his head. He urgently needed to concentrate and take control of it, since the brain is the most important organ. If the energy damages it, then he can become a fool. Suddenly, a stream of energy spoke to him. Something that was happening to him was not as bad as he thought. The guy was taken aback, but decided to trust the flow of energy to flow on its own. The pain was unbearable, but he held on steadfastly. The employees noticed a flow of energy, but they didn't understand what was happening. Thanks to the guy's magic, a huge eye appeared under the ceiling. The staff recognized the examinee as the Lord's grandson, Bai Xiaoan, which surprised the senior officer. The man ordered his subordinate to immediately report everything to Lord and Master Wu. They could not allow anything to happen to the young man. The grandfather hurried to the examiners, indignant at his arrival. They explained to him that an image had appeared above the boy's head during his awakening. And none of the employees understood what was going on, so they called the men. Grandfather used his skill and vision of talent. The old man knew that such a phenomenon could occur when a person's talent reached level S or higher, but he couldn't understand how his grandson managed to do it. The idea occurred to him that most likely the young man's talent, his intuition, had mutated and reached this level. In the world of royal beasts, beasts capable of mutation sometimes appear. Humans are also living beings and are capable of mutation. Human mutation is a kind of talent of the royal beasts, and the number of beast tamers who possess the mutation could be counted on the fingers of 2 hands. Each person possessing the mutated talent became a true celebrity and a legendary figure. He was worried about his grandson, because if his talent really had mutated, then awakening it would be dangerous. He asked Mr. Wu to let him in, but the man asked him not to disgrace him. Mr. Wu said that the awakening hall was under the control of the Kyushu Federation, and the old man, as the lord of Balin City, could not enter it. The gentleman reassured the grandfather that he had nothing to worry about. The Kyushu had a high-quality protective mechanism, and his grandson would be fine. The man remarked that the young talents of this world were beyond compare, and Lord Bai was very lucky to have his grandson. Meanwhile, the guy was focused on the flow of magic that was pouring into his head. Between heaven and earth there are 3 things: divine knowledge, earthly knowledge, and human knowledge. Finally, the guy saw the light. He saw many events. The awakening was complete. The young man returned to his human shell. Knowledge that was incomprehensible to his head was revealed to him. For him it was madness. His skill appeared before him. It was a mystical talent of the mythical level, the eye of the apocalypse. Now with the help of intuition and the ability to predict, he could see the heavenly signs and be the center of everything that was happening. In their world, there are 9 levels of talents from F to SSS, with the highest level talents corresponding to the Supreme Beastmaster. The guy thought that a mythical level talent was something unheard of, perhaps even higher than the highest rank. He couldn't believe the talent he had been given. The hero thought it was some kind of riddle to deceive him. Talents began to appear above the heads of the examinees. Anya could see it all with his own eyes. Now he understood what the Eye of the Apocalypse effect meant. According to the description of his talent, nothing in the area can hide from his eyes. The boy began to think that before the battle, he would be able to find out the enemy's control talent, his pet's abilities, strengths and weaknesses, and even spiritual power. Having analyzed all this, his chances of winning in any battle will be incredibly high. He became interested in what talents the candidates had awakened, and he walked around the room and assessed each one. The hero's eye fell on an A rank apparently. Their city had its own child prodigies. I came up with the idea to test the awakening stone. What he saw shocked him. The stone had many characteristics, and in fact the awakening stone was a spiritual beast, and was in a stupor. In front of him was a legendary beast of the divine level. The guy couldn't get over what he saw. In fact, the god stone was a disguised divine-level beast. This information didn't fit in his head. He was also interested in whether the Federation knew about this. If they know, then everything is fine. They know what they are doing. But if they don't know. In their world, there were several colors of skills. White is the normal skill. Green is the basic skill. Blue is the intermediate skill. Pink is the advanced skill. Orange is the ultimate skill. And gold is the divine skill. However, the stone could awaken golden talents, as well as absorb powers and resurrect. If the Federation does not know about this, it will be a shock to them. The candidates took turns registering their talents. Some were happy with their talent, while others were upset with their rank. And this world for the hero turned out to be not as simple as he imagined it. The employee asked the young man to place his hand on the device, and obediently put his hand down, thinking that everything he had just seen was beyond his control, and that he was now focused on developing his strength to learn the secrets of this world. The man entered the student's data before testing the skill. The process was launched. The guy thought that the path of a genius now awaited him, which would shock the noble public. He was filled with motivation to tell the world that he was the most powerful mythical skill user. But the results of the strength analysis showed a spiritual talent of intuition, a rank. Suddenly the computer crashed, giving an error about the impossibility of identifying the rank. The employee tried to figure out what the error was about with deft movements, and his colleagues came to his aid. Mr. Wu Lao joined them, explaining that the error was caused by the device being unable to recognize talents above rank A. The man approached the employee, thinking that the guy most likely had a talent born during the awakening process. Related to an A-rank talent, he must have had S-rank super intuition. Before leaving, he said that talent of this level rarely awakens, and the guy clearly has a bright future. The worker repeated all the data about the student by Xian again, but with a modified super intuition skill. This news stunned the other candidates. They couldn't believe their ears. The young man was immediately surrounded from all sides, congratulating him on receiving his high rank. Anya didn't acknowledge his talent. In his heart he knew that his true talent was mythical, but he told the guys that he was just lucky. The boys rejoiced at the hero, asking him not to forget about them when he becomes a successful person. The employee got tired of this crowd and dispersed the guys so that they wouldn't hold up the line. The hero felt out of place, as he could not share with the guys the joy of acquiring talent. On his way to the exit, he thought it was strange that the Federation's device couldn't recognize his skill, because they analyze a large number of people, and something like this had never happened before. The guy didn't notice how his grandfather came to meet him. The man asked how he had woken up. The guy said that despite the fact that everything went pretty well, but he did not take the opportunity to build a space for the beast. The grandfather, as a sign of support, put his hand on the young man's shoulder. The man broke into an approving smile and said that it didn't matter, since the young man had managed to change his rank to a higher one, and with their resources, they will help him build a space. The grandson wanted to tell what really happened to him, but the force inside him told him not to tell. It was a function to warn the eye of the apocalypse, so he only told his grandfather that before building the space, he would like to study his talent. The man promised to take him to a place where no one would disturb him, and the boy, meanwhile, was thinking about how he couldn't tell anyone about his talent, and decided to conduct several experiments. The first was reconnaissance. He could see a lot thanks to his skill. Even enemy reconnaissance did not escape his sight, and he could calmly see the fiery dog. Then came the advice on treasure hunting. He was thinking about what kind of acceleration to take. Its detection range was approximately 10 meters, and no treasure could escape it, and began to look at the people and candidates around him. He caught sight of 2 girls, but one of them had the artifact of the 7 treasures. The hero felt power in his hands. He was sure that the stronger he would become, the more the range of his exploration would expand. And most likely in the future, it will be possible to make the visibility range cover the entire world. And then he will become an all-seeing god. A huge explosion thundered behind the hero. A stream of energy in the form of a phoenix soared into the sky. The people around were in a panic. Anya couldn't believe that his girlfriend had managed to awaken such a powerful talent. The grandfather confirmed the boy's guess. It was the flame of a phoenix. This talent was at least S-rank. The phoenix flame belonged to the Feng family. The young man wanted to show off to the girl, but since they were both now S-rank holders, their bet ended in a draw. He was upset. He failed to win the bet. He told his grandfather that he would go home. The old man called Bai Ji and Bai Xiao. He explained that since he was now a high-ranking person, someone would definitely be jealous and could harm him. The girl with the red lock of hair was called Bai Ji. The one with the blue lock was called Bai Xiao, and they were both gold-ranked beastmasters. Anya appreciated his grandfather's preparation for his awakening. The man handed his grandson the key to the treasury, inviting him to use the Lingbi stone to build a space for the beast. The guy was a little shocked but sincerely grateful. The Lingbi stone contains a special power that gives an advantage in space construction, and only the Beastmaster could resort to using this stone. The price of one such stone was no less than 1,000,000 Federation coins, however. The stone was priceless. The young man ordered his bodyguards to remain outside and not let anyone in so as not to disturb him. He took out the key to the treasury, and he inserted it into the barrier doors, and a magical flow spread across the entire area. After all the confirmations of the door, right down to the confirmation of the blood, the gate opened. The guy was warmly invited to come inside. The treasury contained all the savings of the Bai family for many hundreds of years, and what was there was hardly seen by anyone in the outside world. For example, the most influential families competed for this spider core that was put up for auction, and in the end, the Feng family received a large sum of money from its sale. In one of the cells, the guy finally found a Linbi stone. The entire box was filled with stones. Their value was several million, and they had more than 10 such boxes. The young man felt the money in his hands. Having finished placing all the available boxes, the guy began to think that he would need a lot of stones to build the space, since he had a high rank. For S rank, 30 would be enough, but he is a mythical level player, so he would need 10 times more. He immediately began to create space and activated the Eye of the Apocalypse. For 300 stones he was offered a regular space, but the ideal one cost 3 times as much. The amounts confused the guy, but he thought that thanks to this eye he could see the whole picture. His mythical talent may have many hidden functions, but first he needs to build a space, and he chose the perfect space for his beast. Grandfather and father discussed Anya's talents over a cup of tea. The boy would need more effort and time to build the space. Suddenly the grandfather felt an unknown aura. He realized that the construction of his grandson's space was finished. The young man was blazing with energy. The transformation of stones in exchange for space began. The territory began to be created gradually. Rivers, mountains, grass, everything was in this place for a comfortable pastime. Anya felt a light breeze on her skin. He was surprised at how big the space could be. The first space created was 10 meters, and its space could accommodate 1,000 animals. But this space also had additional effects, such as reducing growth, removing negative effects, and revealing the pet's hidden talents. The guy absorbed all the information, because it would be very useful in battle. Usually there are no negative effects in space. In his family, everyone has at least 3 additional effects. In the beast world, a spirit with great potential has a short growth cycle, and many lords do not live to see their beasts reveal their true nature. In his space, beasts with great potential will grow much faster, and thanks to this, he will be able to become the youngest and most powerful beastmaster in the world. During a fight, the pet can be harmed in various ways, and will not be able to continue the fight. If you place him in the observation space, then after a while he will restore his health. As for revealing hidden talents, their revelation is only possible with the help of legendary supreme treasures. An was pleased with the space he had created, and did not regret the stones he had spent. He was glad that his family had large funds to build such a space. As he left the treasury, his entire family was already waiting for him, concerned about his success. The mother was worried that her son had lost weight in a week. The grandfather was gently tugging at his hair. Everyone was happy that the boy had coped. During the meal, the hero swept away everything in his path. He had a ravenous appetite, which caused confusion in his family. The hearty lunch was over. However, it's hard to resist when your mom offers you a side of your favorite dish, braised pork. Anya suddenly remembered that he wanted to say something to his grandfather. He shared that he built the space using 999 stones. This news threw the male half of the family off balance. My father felt sick from such sums. Grandfather was surprised that a mutated S-rank talent would require so many stones, but fortunately they were not in need. When the young man had eaten his fill, the old man suggested that he go and look at the new fish. Perhaps he would find a spirit animal among them. The guy was inspired, because these could be the children of his grandfather's spiritual beast, a diamond-level one. But the large amount of food consumed was asking to come out. After some time, the grandfather and grandson visited the storage of the eggs of the spirit beasts. His family owned their own aquatic animal breeding facility. Accordingly, all the first spirit animals, they are necessarily aquatic, relying on the family's resources. The children of Anya will have enough strength to gain a foothold in the ranks of the Beast Lord. And this storage was special for his family. The lowest level of eggs. Here was the primary silver. The best reached gold. But this was not enough for him. They approached a huge aquarium, and the grandfather clapped his hands to call its inhabitant, and a huge creature appeared to them. It was a red-eyed goldfish, diamond grade. The guy's admiration knew no bounds, but the fish also had its own defect. She had damage at the origin, and was a little tense. The grandfather greeted the beast, telling her the news that his grandson had awakened his talent. The hero became interested in whether he could, with the help of his talent, restore her origin. The fish introduced its unhatched children, one of which was visually different from the other. The one that looked normal had good characteristics. The old man suggested that Anya take a closer look to see which one would suit him best. The young man's attention was drawn to a baby with a defect. He had a supreme amethyst, born with 2 talents. Among the descendants of red-eyed fish, this was the first time. The hero, without hesitation, told his grandfather that he wanted this particular pet. The man did not understand why his grandson chose the damaged animal. He tried to dissuade the boy from his choice, saying that the pet might not even be born. But he approached the children's mother and apologized for such rude remarks towards her children. Nevertheless, his grandson's choice directly affected his future. But Anne stood his ground, and stories began to circulate about how his talent told him that the beast was his ideal partner. And he managed to convince him. But first you need to get the consent of the pet's mother. At that very second, the fish began to tear something out of its body. Anya asked her if she was ready to give up the child. Grandpa explained to the boy that the scales of the red-eyed fish can enhance the spiritual power of water-type beasts, thanks to which the effective skills increases by 10%. The pet began to emerge from the aquarium, along with its mother's blessing. The old man said that it was a gift, thus increasing his chances of survival. He promised the grateful mother that he would do everything possible to raise her child. When Anne returned home, he immediately put the animal in the aquarium, and then he began to add a bunch of ingredients to take out the creature. In the aquarium, the powders began to interact with the baby. The fish merged with the scales. Thanks to the Eye of Apocalypse technique, Anne was able to make this egg perfect. Once the child is whole, they can now enter into a contract. They were transported to another space. Their bonds were sealed. The contract itself also appeared. Now their souls were linked and the contract was sealed. From all the shock, the egg cracked. A mischievous fish hatched from it. A month passed, and Anya the fish and the enemy were fighting on the battlefield. With a stream of water, the white fish attacked the black one. He grabbed his opponent with his teeth and threw him to the ground. After signing the contract, the hero placed the pet in space, and soon the fish caused a random spatial effect and awakened a new talent. Thanks to the power of S-rank Yin, he acquired the purple profound erosion skill, and his qualification was also upgraded to king rank. The opponents quickly left while the crowd rejoiced at Anya's victory. The water-type spirit beasts were no match for the fish, but against a high-level spirit beast of a different type, it was not so easy to defeat. The beast kingdoms are divided into the wretched, iron, bronze, silver, gold, diamond, amethyst, royal, epic, legendary, and divine. The guy called the fish to him. Animals are unfit before they mature, after which, pets are assigned an iron class. After certain testing, you can learn about their further development. The fish saw the owner, and immediately it appeared in his hands, the hero also called Bai Shao. He told the girls to get ready as they would be going into town. In this world, there are 70,000 spider nests and 7 main cities. Around them there are smaller cities. And he was heading to the one that was a subsidiary city of Balin City. It was a city of candle flame. There is a volcano there, in which lives a spider-like spirit beast, of the fire element, which is called the candle flame spider. It does not belong to the higher realms, which makes it ideal for training the Anya fish. The guy and his bodyguards arrived at the station to go to another city, but someone called the young man loudly. Xiaofeng was very out of breath and sweating. She was indignant that the hero seemed not to notice her, and indifferently informed the girl that since they both had S-rank talent awakenings, they were tied, so there was nothing to argue about. The girl agreed to a draw, but she sincerely did not understand why he did not take her seriously, since they were equals. She said that she looked for the young man after the ceremony, and even came to his home. But for some reason he avoided her. The hero moved on, ignoring her insults. Feng wanted to grab Anya to tell him something, but Bai Shao grabbed her hand first. The bodyguard asked the girl to have respect for herself. Bai Shao looked at the girl persistently. Feng sensed the aura of the golden beastmaster from the bodyguard. The guy told the girl that she should be happy, but she was not satisfied with the outcome of their previous dispute, and she proposed a new bet in which their animals would fight against each other. The guy agreed to the bet without enthusiasm. He was going crazy in his head. The girl was being too aggressive towards him, and if it weren't for the friendship between their families, he would have given her a good beating. The dispatcher announced that the train heading to the city of Candleflame would soon arrive at the platform. Passengers are requested to line up along the white line. Between the cities there is a very dangerous wilderness, where spirit beasts are everywhere, and few dare to wander into the wildlands. But the need to travel between cities remained, so special means of transportation were created. They are like a spiritual beast, snails with blades. The body is solid, made of steel, and each carriage can be transformed into a separate vehicle if necessary. The higher the level of the train, the more durable and expensive it is. Luckily, Anya had booked the best and most modern carriage for himself in advance, as he could afford it. So, joyfully anticipating his trip, he extended his hand to the controller. His photograph, name, and second-class ticket appeared on the screen. The woman asked him to return to the second-class carriage. The guy was puzzled. His grandfather is sure that in order to gain experience, a hero must live like an ordinary person and have more contact with the outside world. But the guy has lived more than one life, and he has plenty of experience with the outside world. While the young man was angry at the circumstances, the passengers were admiring the city of Balin. There was noise and hubbub in the carriage, but Anya overheard the girls discussing their classmate for her hot temper, and also noticed that he was traveling with the students of the Beastmaster Academy. Their pets, after 1 year, did not show much of an increase in level. These were ordinary animals with ordinary talents. They were far from the hero, with his golden hands as an animal trainer. Looking at the other passengers, he noticed a distant girl. She had an S-rank talent that could hold on to other people's luck and use it. A passing passenger suddenly slipped and almost fell on the girl. FIFA was outraged that the girl dared to touch her. The shy girl quietly asked for forgiveness. But the passenger wasn't satisfied with this either, and she yelled at her classmate not to talk to her. Observing the entire situation, and thought that her talent was mythical, just like his, it was surprising that it had not been reported in Balin City. As the train moved away from the city into the wasteland, the guy decided to figure everything out. The city of Candleflame was right ahead. The local fauna had already noticed a new portion of food. The huge arachnid beast watched the passing vehicles closely. The train arrived in the city. On the way out, Anne called out to Baiju. The girl suddenly appeared behind me. The mysterious girl did not let go of his attention. He asked the bodyguard to find out more about her. Baiju realized that the guy fell in love with the girl at first sight, but the young man denied everything, saying that there was simply something special about this girl, and if he can win her over to his side, in the future, the power of his family will increase significantly. The city did indeed have volcanoes, but there was also normal vegetation, and the city was in harmony with fire. Rays of emergence energy began to appear around the area. Crowds of spiders were already waiting for the newly arrived guests. Their first target was Anne, but the hero did not lose his head and immediately summoned his pet. The fish appeared in an instant and protected its owner from the enemy's attack. Streams of water cut the spider's flesh. The guy jumped back to a safe distance. Having taken a fighting stance, he was ready for other attacks. During the time the trainer spent with the fish, it grew significantly, and his skills became more perfect. The arachnid creatures went on the attack. The fish was ready for battle. One after another, he destroyed his opponents. The whole area was covered with splashes of water and spider limbs. In just a few seconds, they managed to deal with 5 level 5 spiders, which were significantly stronger than those in the training ground. The guy thought, under normal circumstances, the water pistol would have simply left a hole in the creatures' heads, but the fish completely blew them up. The skill sign above his head explained that the skill's power could vary when used, so the decision was made to find someone stronger. Only fighting higher-level spirit beasts can help develop skills. The fish currently has 5 skills, and it needs to work hard to develop their level and strength. To understand what the hero is talking about, let's take the Swordmaster as an example. The master is a novice. He can cut 1 bamboo stalk, and after many years of training, the master achieves perfection. And now, with 1 swing of his sword, he is able to split an entire mountain. This is the difference in skill. The same skill has different power in the hands of spiritual beasts. But the battle is not over yet. Reinforcements have arrived, and so a week of grueling training in the city of Candleflame has passed. The fish spewed a stream of water, and the spider deftly dodged it. The enemies also leveled up during this time. They were more embittered than the initial ones. The enemy released a web. The fish was caught in a silk trap. The spider slowly pulled its prey towards itself, but the fish did not give up. He was filled with spiritual strength. Freeing himself from his bonds, he unleashed a torrent of water on the enemy with all his might. The spiritual beast Anya has managed to level up well during her time living here. The guy suggested that in another week the pet would be able to reach level 9. Baiju appeared behind him. She had finished collecting the information he had asked for. The girl's name was Chao Gubai. Her parents died in an accident. She has no guardians. None of her relatives dared to take her in, since the girl has a destructive skill. She is in debt to her parents. If she had not awakened her talent and found protection, she would have simply been sold to creditors. After entering college, many faced troubles, alienation from classmates or disgust from teachers, but failures did not break her. In her free time, she works and looks for alternative ways to repay debts. But the places where she worked often closed. The girl seemed to be attracting bad luck, but Anya was interested in what happened on the day she awakened her talent. Baichi said the girl was the last to awaken her talent. The equipment broke down, and the staff didn't want to waste time recertifying. The guy finished for her, saying that most likely the girl was told about the F-rank talent. But what was interesting was that her talent also affected items. The hero ordered his subordinate to pay the girl's debts and transfer her to the Beast Academy of Balin City, as she was ideal for recruitment. Baiju was embarrassed by the master's words about transferring the girl. Inspired, she gave the honor that she would do everything in the best possible way. The girl thought that spring had come for the young man, and this was how he showed his love for the rich man. Their conversation was interrupted by a loud scream. At that very moment, a spider-like beast ran after Gubai. Anya didn't think that they would meet again so soon. Rib immediately flew out to help. He aimed at the enemy and launched an attack. The monster's head immediately separated from its body. Having finished with the spider, the fish appeared before Gubai. The girl watched her savior, fascinated. Ribka winked at her and advised her not to dwell on him. Anya was shocked by his little animal's self-confidence, and the bodyguard giggled mockingly. Baiju immediately disappeared, arguing that she forgot to turn off the iron. Rib continued to hit on the girl as the hero walked towards them, and extended his hand to the girl sitting on the ground, but she felt embarrassed and did not accept it. She remembered that she had already seen her savior on the train. The young man introduced himself and his animal, and the girl thanked him for saving her. Noticing how Seelan his pet was, the guy asked how she ended up there, and where her classmates had gone. Gu said that she got separated from them and met this mutant spider. Anya tensed up. It must have been that same spider that attacked her classmates. He grabbed the girl by the hands and asked her to take him to him. The girl was overcome with goosebumps from surprise. She pulled her hands away, trying to explain that it was dangerous there, and she wasn't the best companion for something like that. But the guy was assertive. He took her hand again, and he began to convince her that his beast was strong and he would prove it to her. He planned not only to practice on the spider, but also to demonstrate his strength to the girl. He imagined how he would defeat the mutant. The girl was very impressed by his actions, and subsequently will offer him her loyalty. Baiji watched the boys on a high branch. She felt uneasy when the hero smirked. They came to the lair of the arachnid mutants. In the center sat the largest spider. It was the leader of the spiders. He had quite good stats. He even had a double talent, which is rare for low-level beasts. And thought, if such a small creature had double talent, then there were definitely treasures in the cave. The boy summoned his spirit beast. The girl tried to dissuade him from fighting. The young man reassured her that everything would be fine. She just needed to step back and watch. Together with their pet, they thought about a strategy. First, they needed to reduce the number of ordinary spiders using a water shot. You need to wait for the moment when the leader is left alone and use the flow of water to tear him apart. Rib heard all the recommendations and rushed into battle. The attack passed through the cluster of spiders. The leader was angry. He was outraged that someone below the 8th rank had invaded his domain and ordered his brothers to finish off the little fish. The horde immediately set its sights on the pet and commanded to direct the flow to where there were most enemies. Rib obediently agreed with the boss's orders. At that very moment, a stream of water filled the cave, incinerating the enemies. A huge explosion rocked the monastery. The spider leader couldn't understand how such a weak beast could do such a thing. He was enraged that his subordinates were killed before his eyes. The enemy was attacked with fiery shells. Rib was not prepared for such circumstances. The hero commanded his pet to use royal speed in time to dodge the attacks. The spirit beast listened to its master and managed to avoid damage from the explosions. Having reached the enemies, he began to attack them one after another. Rib had achieved good control over his royal speed, and it was easy for him to avoid attacks. The monsters began to spew out different projectiles, but it was also not difficult for the fish to avoid collisions with them. Thanks to his speed, he managed to reach the leader of the spiders. They liked them, and shouted to the fish not to fall for the leader's provocations. His first priority now is to clear the field before the real battle begins, and the pet continues to clear the cave of its subordinates. When only the leader remained in the monastery, he expressed his dissatisfaction that all his comrades had been killed. The guys watching the battle from cover assumed that the mutant would have to take a big step. The leader spewed out a triple web. The fish skillfully dodged the attack, but the web was unusual. It was molten silk that could melt various objects, and ordered to hit the monster on the paw. The pet erupted into streams of water at the enemy. The leader shielded himself from attacks. The damage fell on the enemy's paw, shattering his limb. The young man realized that the force of the water strikes was stronger than before. The water system had a natural advantage over the water one. At this rate, victory was guaranteed. But everything was going too smoothly. During another high-speed attack, the fish was caught in the hot silk. And then it dawned on Anya what this cunning spider had done. Although the fish could avoid the attacks of the spider silk, it grew in number with each attack, and eventually it would fill the entire nest, and the pet would be trapped. The guy commanded to use water to eat away the web. The end of the leader was near. It was necessary to finish him off. Pisces began to gather his spiritual powers into the water stream. It erupted with a destructive impulse. Streams of water flew in all directions. The leader's limbs crumbled under the force of the impulse. The spider fell. Water vortices surrounded him. The monster received a charge of water all over its body. The spider leader was almost completely destroyed by the fish's attack, and was overjoyed that he had managed to defeat such a monster. However, the fish could not share his joy. The baby was completely exhausted and lost consciousness. He was flying straight towards the ground, which is fraught with consequences from falling from such a height. The guy shouted after him. A second before hitting the ground, and managed to grab his beast with spiritual power. The baby rose above its owner. The fish's rank was raised to 9th. Thanks to the experience gained from defeating the spider leader, they were able to achieve their goal. The young man calmly held the baby in his arms and carefully praised the fish, telling him that he needed to rest. The girl expressed her concerns about her pet, but the guy reassured her that he would rest and be as good as new. Having sent the animal into space, they began to examine the prey. They examined the extent of the carcass. Anya took out a knife to cut up the carcass. The girl skillfully snatched it from the guy's hands. He was surprised by her dexterity. Gubai began cutting up the monster's carcass. It was clear from her eyes that she enjoyed it, which is why she got an A in anatomy. The young man was thinking that the treasure that caused the spider to mutate must be somewhere nearby. At that moment the girl called him. There was something in her hands. She brought the awakening stone from the leader's body. Anne was surprised that he had not had time to use his talent. But Gubai had already brought treasures. It seemed to him that her talent would be very useful to him. Before this, he had only seen 2 things that awakened talents: the Federation Stone and his beast space. Talent awakening items were the most valuable in the entire Federation. It was impossible to say this ahead of time. The hero decided that he should be careful with the girl for now, so he told her that he didn't know what it was, and would ask his elders about this treasure. The girl admired the boy's knife while he thought that now was the right time. He invited the girls to come to them. Gubai asked the guy point blank why he wanted to recruit her like this. The guy confirmed her suspicions without hesitation. The Ripper began to reflect on how strong the young man was. She was completely different. Everyone considers her a disgusting monster. Anya approached the girl, took her by the hand, and told her that everything she said about herself was not true. To him, she wasn't a monster, and as the young master of the Bai family, he promised to show her the most beautiful places. Gu looked at the guy in bewilderment. She remembered that she had heard this name before. Lord Bai was the Diamond Master of Beasts. The hero again invited her to move to his city. The girl was tormented by doubts. She really wanted to try to trust again. Maybe this time everything would be different. They shook hands in agreement. The girl happily announced that she would go with him, and to repay Xian, she will work hard. The boy climbed into the spider's nest to give Gubai a gift. There were many eggs with the same characteristics. He noticed the egg of the spider leader, because thanks to a mutation, several individuals could emerge from it. If it is used correctly and a new type of spiritual beast is cultivated, it will bring certain benefits to the Bai family. He gave the egg to the girl. The pet was a potential gold level. Adopting a new pet was a requirement to join the Bai family, and her current pet's potential was too low. Gu became nervous. She realized that the guy wanted her to sign a contract between them. The connection between the master and the beast cannot be simply broken. As the master's level increases, low-level beasts become unsuitable for combat, so pets with potential are chosen. Owners have 2 options to readopt a pet, one of which is to forcibly terminate the contract and release the animal. Another way was to kill the beast. Gubai had decided to accept the gift beast, thereby forming a contract with Anne, but now she needed to break the contract with her pet. The first method could cause significant damage to the Overlord's health. The second practically does not affect the Overlord, but it was cruel and is often condemned. Anya waited to see which method the girl would choose. Gu summoned a spiritual contract, her hand movements smooth. Having completed the ritual, she folded her hands in front of her pet. Blood immediately gushed from his mouth. The guy was scared for her. The girl replied that she was fine. She thanked her faithful pet for being with her all this time, but now she was letting him go, and he could be free. The bug flew out of the cave, and Anya couldn't believe that the girl had actually made her choice. Nevertheless, he was glad that he had not been mistaken about her. It was already getting dark. The hero and his friend went to the black market. The shopkeeper was indignant at the proposed price of 9,000. The man assured that the treasure was worth much more, since it was inherited from his ancestors. Since the guy was so interested in this thing, then in the merchant's opinion he should take it for the price he was offering him, and told the man that his youthful appearance was no reason to be intimidated. They began to argue. The young man noticed that the crystal was broken. The merchant said that, despite the damage, it still contained the energy of awakening. The hero agreed with the man. The crystal did indeed contain spiritual energy, but the chance of the skill being realized was close to 0. He thought that he was able to find such a treasure in a regular black market. It seemed that Gubai was really useful to him. The shopkeeper offered to go back to the price of 900,000 yuan, but the guy replied that he was not interested. The man dropped the price to 100,000, but this was his last offer, and got his way, and was already handing the card to the merchant. However, a stranger intervened in their deal. He also became interested in purchasing this item, and he offered 200,000 for her. The hero was shocked by the man's impudence and told him to mind his own business. The shady guy noted that the merchant hadn't sold him the item yet, so he had every right to negotiate, and he was sure that the young man clearly didn't have enough money to beat the price. And he, as the nephew of the mayor of this city, offers him a job so that he does not walk around with empty pockets. But the man's attention was drawn to the girl standing behind the guy. He appreciated her graceful fingers, her fair, delicate skin. In his eyes, she was simply a cutie. The man melted at the sight of such a beauty, and shook the man out of his fantasy by offering to fight for the treasure. From the looks of it, this guy was the perfect chance to practice. The stranger appreciated the young man's desire to show off in front of the girls. His pet had an intermediate iron level. The man ordered his beast to attack the boy. The dog attacked the guy. Anya shielded Gubai from the fire dog's attack. For someone like him, under the constant protection of his family, the opportunity to fight in a brawl comes extremely rarely. The beast did not hesitate for a second before attacking the young man. The hero deftly dodged the attacks. He had just killed a bronze-level monster. He was curious to see how strong this pet was. The man shouted that it was useless to hide. A crowd gathered around the battle. Everyone recognized the mayor's nephew, noting that his favorite tactic was a surprise attack. The dog jumped over the buildings as he approached Anya. Gubai warned the hero about the attack. The merchant concluded that the boy was a corpse. The guy got into a fighting stance, preparing to defend himself. With deft movements, he grabbed the dog by the muzzle and turned it over. Thus, he spun the beast in front of him, until I decided to attack the neutralized target. The pet returned to its owner like a bullet, flying around the entire alley. The frightened animal tucked its paws in. The shady guy was beside himself with anger that he dared to offend his pet. He ordered the dog to use flames to incinerate the bastard. A stream of fire flew straight at Anya. The young man managed to jump away from the epicenter of the explosion. A huge hole remained at the site of the attack, and the guy realized it was time to release the fish. Having summoned his pet, he commanded Scales to attack the enemy, but their attention was distracted by some noise behind them. A huge snake jumped out at them from behind. It was as if she came out of Anya's space. It turns out the man took advantage of the hero's pet summoning moment and summoned his beast behind them. The master and his faithful servant noted that the fight would not be easy. There was no time to waste, and commanded the attack. The shady guy was confident in his abilities and ordered the dog to return fire. The dog obediently called down fiery projectiles from the sky. Scales was surrounded by them. Then suddenly, like a chain reaction, they began to explode. Rib found himself at the very epicenter of the explosions. The man rejoiced that such a low-level beastmaster with only one pet dared to challenge him, and he felt sorry for his pet. According to the mayor's nephew, the fish clearly followed the wrong owner. Anya noted that the enemy was drawing conclusions about him too early. Scales avoided damage from explosions with royal speed. He gave the bream to the dog, from which he flew into the wall at full speed, crashing into it with a roar. The building was destroyed, and the man's pet was visible under the rubble, clearly unable to continue the fight. Now the fish just has to deal with the huge snake. Scales gracefully avoided her attacks. The power of this spiritual beast was unshakable. He gathered it into himself, and he fired a powerful water volley right at the enemy's head. The spiritual enemies were dealt with. The man stood trembling with fear. He didn't understand how a small, low-level fish managed to defeat his powerful beasts. The fish went back into space. Anya approached her nephew, praising the talents of his pets. However, he felt sorry that they had followed the wrong master. The man was beside himself with anger. He suddenly pulled out a cold weapon from behind his back. The enemy flew at the young man, shouting that he was only a low-level overlord, and that he had so much pride. Baiji appeared in time and neutralized the attacker. She said that she had a letter for Master Anya. While the enemy was recovering from the blow, the guys successfully bought the crystal for 100,000. Anya received the parcel and brought it to the hotel. The parcel contained a variety of herbs and flowers. There was also a letter from the grandfather, in which he wrote that he had collected all the ingredients that his grandson had asked him for, but was surprised that he had decided to evolve the beast in his own way. According to their family recipe, the fish was supposed to become red-eyed, but his Eye of the Apocalypse granted him an evolutionary choice called Kunpin, according to which, in the water the pet was a huge whale, like Kun, and in the sky he was a bird like Pen, transforming into a huge, powerful fish, 3 forms and 9 evolutions. It will be a legendary beast that rules the sky and the sea. The scale appeared out of nowhere and flew rapidly towards its owner. The pet dealt him several blows to the body. He was clearly not happy about the upcoming evolution. Gubai came running at the noise and knocked on the door to make sure Anne was okay. The hero brazenly grabbed the pet. He tried to free himself from his hands, but the young man was stronger. Enraged, he announced that they would begin the transformation immediately. A seal appeared underneath them. The hero combined all the ingredients for the heart. They merged with the spiritual beast, and the process of transformation began. Scale has evolved. An explosion rocked the room. The fish now barely fit into the room, filling all the space, and sent his comrade home into space, exhaling that he can breathe again. There was a knock at the door. It was Bai Zhi. She asked what was going on with the master there. The young man assured her that everything was fine, and that he was simply working on his pet's skills, and decided to make some more rearrangements. He decided that he urgently needed to find a way to change the pet's size, otherwise inconveniences might arise. There was another letter sticking out of the parcel. The guy was satisfied with what was written in it, but he decided to add something to it before sending it to his grandfather. He will write that he simply went to the market in another city. The next day, Master and Gubai went to Chi City. Everywhere there were traders of various treasures. Somewhere they were recruiting employees. A crowd of people was present at the fair. They walked around the entire city, but they still couldn't find anything worthwhile. Walking down the alley, the guy heard a conversation about an auction. The men discussed the fact that the lots would include diamond-grade artifacts, and that a certain old woman from Lanlin was hunting for just such artifacts. Anya was not happy with this news. He really needed the artifact. Distracted for a second, his companion was already examining the crystals. She asked the merchant how much the crystal she had chosen would cost her. The man was irritated and asked the girl not to distract him, because this treasure was clearly beyond her means. Anne, thanks to his skill, saw that the crystal was capable of opening diamond artifacts, which surprised him, because Gu clearly took it at random. He touched the girl's shoulder. He hugged her and asked the merchant to name the price, since he was buying it. The man calmly said the sum of 30 million Federation coins, thinking to himself that the buyer was an ordinary stupid son of rich parents. The young man was furious at the price, and his companion said it was too expensive and they should move on. The merchant, grinning, thought to himself that the boy could not afford such a price. Anya handed the card to the man through clenched teeth. He was overjoyed, now he was rich. Suddenly, an unusual beast appeared in the sky. It was a powerful crane. This pet was an intermediate diamond level, and Lord Bai stood on it. He asked to convey that they had arrived. The bird screamed loudly throughout the city. Another figure appeared in the sky and greeted the guest in a friendly manner. It was the mayor of this city, riding on a phoenix. The old man appreciated the mayor's hospitality, and he asked him to make himself at home in the city. Anya realized that it was his grandfather, apparently, to make sure everything went smoothly. He came in person. The crane and the phoenix rushed towards the skyscraper, the mayor's headquarters. On the second day of arrival in the city of Chi, the grandfather and grandson went to the palace. They came to the auction. The grandfather asked his grandson if he really wanted to participate, but the boy was confident in his abilities. They were called out to. The old man called someone to them. It was Lan Dongli, the ruler of Lanlin City, along with her granddaughter, Zhao Zhiqi. The woman was serious and immediately said that the artifact would go to the highest bidder. Meanwhile, her granddaughter was carefully examining Anya. The young man was surprised by her. The old man greeted his interlocutor's granddaughter. He had heard that the woman had been collecting diamond artifacts for her treatment. The woman tensed up. She felt some kind of aura coming from the old man, assuming that he was secretly threatening her. She was angry. They were both diamond-level masters, she said. The old man would not emerge victorious from this fight. The guy felt the woman's aura, but this was the first time he had encountered a master of such a high level. The man steadfastly answered her that if they clashed in a battle for the artifact, the decision would be up to the auction house. Grandfather created a shield that only the best craftsmen could use, and he offered Lan Dong a deal so that everyone would benefit. The woman slowed down, becoming interested in the proposal. The grandfather provided a box, in which there was another diamond artifact. He put forward the condition that he would give it to him if he received the artifact he needed at auction. Anya stopped him. He felt sorry that Lan's granddaughter was sick, and he suggested that his grandfather give in to them and simply give him to her. The grandfather was shocked that his grandson arranged a free giveaway instead of a sale. This was not at all what they had agreed on. The woman was surprised that the guy decided to simply give away such a valuable artifact. Anne smiled sincerely at his interlocutors, remembering that the woman needed these artifacts to heal her granddaughter. He explained that he liked her and decided to give it to them, but the guy's fame embarrassed the girl. The grandfather realized that his grandson would not simply give away a valuable artifact out of simple sympathy. He assumed that his grandson's super intuition had discovered something, so he immediately simply gave the artifact to the woman. Landong looked at the box hopefully. She announced that she accepted Lord Bei's gift and would not compete with him at the auction. The granddaughter and grandmother began to leave the palace. The girl asked the name of her savior as she said goodbye. The guy introduced himself and invited her to visit when she got better. The girl repeated his name, hoping to remember it. The guy was thinking that they had a free diamond artifact, and it would have been a sin not to take advantage of this. Moreover, the girl had very good data, at least SS rank. If she can overcome the disease, she will become a legendary master throughout the world. The 30 million invested in this artifact will pay off handsomely over time. The hall was full of excitement. Everyone was waiting for the auction to begin. The presenter greeted everyone present. She announced the start of today's auction. The first lot was a gold-level spiritual beast egg, the purple eagle, valued at 1 million. The guests were hesitant about purchasing it, as rumors had it that this type of animal is difficult to train. The grandfather and grandson sat in the VIP box, watching the auction. Anya looked closely at the egg. The presenter announces the last opportunity to purchase this lot. A price of 1 million was shouted from the box. The guests were amazed at the way the rich people thought. They just wanted to play games. The woman presenter was glad that the first lot would be bought. The grandfather wanted to dissuade the young man, because the diamond artifact would not be easy to obtain. But the grandson saw something more, and he told his grandfather that his intuition told him that the egg was worth it. He was glad that his talent helped him at the auction. The lot was sold to the Bai family, followed by another. The bidding had been going on for an hour already. The last lot was Qing Yuanlu. He had no starting price, so an open auction was announced with each bid being 1 million. Many people were hunting for the diamond artifact. Everyone offered their own prices. The highest price at that time was 100 million. The grandfather explained to his grandson that he needed to wait a little and announce his price at the very end of the auction. This thing was the key to his second talent. And what about the crystal that he managed to get from the body of the mutated pack leader? It had several uses. The first was that when carried with him, it could awaken lower talents. The second method is absorption. With its help you can awaken talents from C to A. The third method involves mixing with different materials to awaken the highest skill. The price of 500 million was shouted out in the hall. The man was confident that he would obtain this artifact to raise his level to diamond. The lodge offered a price of 700 million Federation coins. The man's name was Tang Day, and he was a master of the highest gold. He planned to get this artifact at any cost. Tang Day raised the bet to 800 million, and a whisper ran through the hall that the guy was one step away from reaching the diamond level. A strong aura was felt from the third box, which fell upon the entire hall. The bet was raised to 900 million. The man realized that this was the aura of a diamond-level overlord. The hall was puzzled as to whether this was the aura of the old man whom the mayor personally greeted. There was a loud cough in the third box, hinting at the continuation of the bidding. The presenter continued accepting bets, slightly agitated. Tang turned to the lodge and apologized for being rude. The girl began her report. As the auction drew to a close, everyone was surprised that the mayor of Lanlin did not participate in the auction, given her love for diamond artifacts. Lot went to the guests from the third box. The mayor of the city burst in on them, perplexed as to how the old man had managed to convince the witch not to participate in the auction. Lord Bai shared that his grandson had sorted everything out. The man was surprised that his grandson was so thin and was the master of beasts. Anya was jubilant. Now he would have a second talent, and the men in the background were whispering about something. They loudly made some kind of bet. The young man looked back at them. The grandfather told his grandson that in 3 days there would be a fight between him and the mayor's granddaughter. The guy was taken by surprise by this news. Someone brazenly broke into the mansion of the lord of the city of Qi, knocking down the door. It was the mayor's granddaughter. Her name was Qi Yanni. She was outraged that the old man kept calling her, and she promised to tear off his beard if he called her for some stupidity. Her grandfather remembered that she wanted to level up, and he got her a chance to fight a beast with diamond-level potential. The girl asked what kind of chance she had been given, and the grandfather told her that she needed to defeat the guy. Lord Bai told his grandson that this would be a great opportunity for him to find a beast that he liked. The opponents asked them not to rush things, but the Bai family knew how difficult it would be to take the beast from the Red Crow Valley. The man hoped that the boy would lose, but his granddaughter interrupted him, noting the hero's beauty, and the girl introduced herself. The guys started exchanging pleasantries. Grandfather didn't like that they weren't acting like rivals, so he decided to start the fight right away and asked the young men to get ready. The guys ran to both sides. Qian warned that she would be very serious during the fight. She summoned a raven from space with the qualification of a supreme diamond. It had the elements of fire and wind. The girl ordered the beast to soar into the sky, and she turned to Anya to ask him to also summon a pet. The guy didn't need to be told twice. He summoned space and called Scales. The huge whale had a hard time getting out of the animal world, and he plopped down on the floor. The fish managed to lose weight, but he gained it back. Qi Yan burst into laughter at the cuteness of her opponent's pet, and the young man was shocked by the transformation that had taken place. The core he acquired at the auction had the ability to change size at will, but he couldn't have imagined that the fish would shrink so much. All the pets were on the battlefield. The raven went on the attack. The girl ordered to use a wing strike. The beast obediently began its attack. Anya and Scales jumped away from the attacks without any difficulty. However, one blade trimmed his hair, which forced him to make an acrobatic lunge to avoid significant damage. To counterattack, the hero ordered to use a water pistol to shoot down the crow. From the clouds of smoke, water geysers flew into the sky. The bird dodged the attacks without difficulty. The girl praised her pet for easily dodging the flow. The entire battlefield was strewn with smoke and water. The young man also praised the fish. After evolution, the range and power of the water pistol increased significantly. However, another enemy appeared on the battlefield. A giant eagle, with the qualification of an intermediate diamond, possessing the same elements as the raven. The guy was hit by a targeted fire attack. Anya completely forgot that the girl had a second beast. Luckily, he was saved by Scales, who easily absorbed the attack. The boy was not yet very experienced in fighting other masters, so he thanked his faithful beast for his help. Qi Yan was serious and noted the young man's defense, but she still had attacks in her arsenal. The raven and the eagle united. The boys took a defensive position. Birds circled above their opponents, and warned Scales that they were being attacked from two sides, so they needed to be prepared. The men discussed the fight. Grandfather Ni was sure that the last blow would be his granddaughter's. Old Man Bai asked his friend not to rejoice too early, so that he would not have to cry later. The raven flew into attack, the spread of its wings blowing away everything beneath it. An eagle guarded him from above, driving his opponents into a trap. Explosions thundered across the field. The fire pets were as serious as their owner. The boy's grandfather was angry that his grandson did not take the initiative in the attack. His friend encouraged him that his granddaughter would not hurt his boyfriend. When the wall of smoke cleared, everyone could see Anya using shield spells. Those present were shocked by what they saw, because the level of iron that An had did not allow him to use such techniques. The guy found out that the shield was not only available to the silver level, it required a sufficient amount of energy, which was abundant in his spiritual space. The jokes were over, and said that he was ready to finish the battle as he had planned. He ordered Scales to use the water gun, and the fish began to transform into his true form. A huge whale soared into the sky. Old Man Ni was amazed by the size of his pet, noting that his friend's grandson was simply a monster. Grandfather Bai couldn't put two words together. He was shocked by what he saw. Scales began to gather energy for the water pistol. A huge waterfall burst out. A raven was caught in the stream and surprisingly held on steadfastly. However, the eagle was less fortunate. It received a stunning charge, and he fell in this battle. The girl was beside herself with anger. She ordered the raven to unleash a stream of flame on the enemy. The bird immediately aimed at the hero. The raven collected energy in its beak to charge a powerful attack. His whole body became fiery. The grandfather's grandfather was angry with his granddaughter. She refused to admit defeat and continued to attack her opponent. Water and fire are ready to engage in a fight to determine the winner of the ongoing battle. Keith released a stream of water at the enemy and asked Scales not to hurt his opponent. The water beam was clearly superior to the fire beam, and so, without difficulty, he continued his direction towards the girl. Qi Yan was in a hopeless situation. The attack was aimed straight at her. Now Grandfather Bai patted the old man on the shoulder, noting that his grandson would not harm his granddaughter. In the end, the girl admitted her defeat, just so the guy would put her down on the ground, and ordered the fish to go back into space, accepting his opponent's defeat. The company went to the palace, near which stood a majestic statue of a raven. Grandfather Ni appealed to acceptance that he could be proud of his grandson, because he won. But both men understood that Xiaoan's talent was much better than theirs. The old man in red gathered his strength into a fist and swung. He hit some button. The shield near the castle became tangible, and gradually began to crumble. The grandfather opened a portal into which he kindly invited the winner, announcing the rule that he would be given only an hour to find a suitable pet, and the girl would go and look after him. Anya understood the conditions of his stay there. This time would be enough for him. And the guy entered the portal. They, along with Qi Yan, ended up in the Red Crow Valley, and the Chai family used secret methods to turn this place into a miniature kingdom. The girl was proud of her family. They were famous for their fire techniques throughout the empire. While they were walking through the valley, An asked his sister to introduce him to the local fauna. The girl pointed somewhere at a tree and said that a red-winged raven lived there. The family was hostile towards the boy. The young man noticed that all the birds seemed to be staring at him. He was ready to defend himself. A flock of birds soared up above the boys' heads. The guy surrounded himself with a water barrier to fight off the local inhabitants. Qi Yan stood in front of him. She had a device that made a very unpleasant sound. The symbols on the device scared the birds like a barrier, and the birds immediately retreated. The girl scolded the guy for planning to use water magic in the Kingdom of Fire. The guy heard her and promised to be more careful. He began to examine the nests, looking for a new pet. Thanks to the Eye of the Apocalypse, he saw all their characteristics. I poked at each bird, testing their strength. I looked with both eyes, gradually, from nest to nest. A whole hour passed, and the hero still hadn't made his choice, which made Qi bored, and ignored his companion, thinking only about the fact that among all the birds, he could not find a worthy pet. He decided to find someone at least of high class, so that his grandfather would be satisfied with him. But an unusual specimen caught his eye. She was damaged, but her talent was SS rank. The bird also had an orange skill, and the guy was shocked that he hadn't noticed it before. The eye explained to him that he himself had blocked clues to animals below the diamond level. Anya took the chick in his arms and invited him to go with him. The bird shook his head negatively, and the guy realized that he couldn't get by without persuasion. He presented the bird with a crystal. The fire crystal caught the chick's attention. The little animal began to struggle internally. He was the embodiment of the sun, and some small stone would not tempt him. The hero smiled slyly and offered the chick the core of this crystal if he would go with him. The bird had great doubts. He didn't understand whether he was ready to leave his nest for this. He shook his head as the boy waved the crystal in front of him. It was difficult for the animal to make a decision. He denied his desire with all his guts. After some time, he finally gave in. The crystal turned out to be more tempting. Qi was surprised that the bird gave up, and did not expect to see her behind her. The guy was very afraid that the girl, as an expert in breeding red-winged ravens, would want to interfere with his choice. He decided to make a contract with the animal right then and there. The girl was stunned by the hero's actions. A flurry of energy spilled out onto the boys. Anya didn't take into account that his new pet would require a lot of effort, and the chick needed energy, which it absorbed from the youth's water power. She considered the hero a psycho, but did not stand aside. She decided to help him by using her firepower to prevent the chick from swallowing the guy. Fire was blazing everywhere. The contract was signed. The guy could barely breathe after the ritual. Contact with the bird really threw him off balance. Having filled himself with energy, the little animal breathed a sigh of relief. Having given the chick the well-deserved crystal, the master sent him to the pet space. Huge mountains, an open field, the bird ended up in another world. The space has activated the spirit beast's mutation. The bird will now have a random talent, S-rank fire spirit body. While the new inhabitant was admiring his stone, someone crept up to him unnoticed. The Eye of the Apocalypse caused the chick to mutate. The fire spirit's body reduced the effectiveness of water-type attacks, and he could also use the enemy's fire skills to enhance his own. A huge fireball filled the entire space with its light. Scales watched his new roommate, not understanding what was happening. Meanwhile, and thanked his companion for helping him, he would never forget her help. If not for her, the contract would not have gone so smoothly for him. Chai became embarrassed, saying that she didn't do it for him, but she just wouldn't be able to explain it to her grandfather if the guy died here. And it wasn't that they were afraid of them. They had no plans to quarrel with the Bai family. The young man thanked her once again for her concern. But his companion became even more embarrassed. She insisted that he had nothing to do with it, that she was worried about her family. The boys returned to their grandfathers. Anya could barely move his legs. The old man picked him up, trying to find out what had happened to him. The grandson said that everything was fine with him. It was just that the new pet had taken too much energy. The grandfather was shocked by this news. If the boy was not prepared, the pet's life would be in danger. The hero summoned his new pet from space to show his grandfather that he was okay. He saw this unique bird in the valley and made a contract with it. The grandfathers were shocked by Anya's actions. However, Grandfather Bai noticed that the pet was special. The bird had extraordinary abilities, and his friend suffered great losses. Grandfather Qi immediately realized that the person in front of him was a mutated raven. The Bai family thanked them for the warm welcome, but it was time for them to return home. The hosts said goodbye to the guests, wishing them all the best. Qi couldn't stand it and shouted after Anya that good talent isn't everything. A real warrior must survive many battles. They had a long road ahead, and she would definitely catch up with him. The hero thought about her words, and he answered her that he would not wait for her. If there was an opportunity, let her run. The boy shouted to the girl that they would see each other at the end of the journey anyway, and the grandfather and grandson flew home riding on a crane. They quickly reached their city of Balin. The crane landed near the family estate. The grandfather advised his grandson to restore his strength by absorbing the crystal cores of fire. A subordinate came running to the city leader. His name is Yuan Kuei-chen. The beast-like man was very out of breath as he ran. The old man told Yuan to catch his breath, and then tell him why he came. A subordinate whispered something to the lord, causing him to curse at someone. Anya's bodyguards stood near the door. Baiji assumed that after the master's fruitful work, upon his return he would go to recuperate. The girl didn't understand why and forbade his new friend Gu Bai from contacting the other children in the family, since she had passed the assistant test. Perhaps he is one of those bosses who does not want to share his beloved. Bai Xiao advised her sister not to say such things in front of the master. Meanwhile, the hero was preparing a bath for himself, mixing various ingredients. He also had to crush the crystal in a mortar. Having finished with all the ingredients, all that was left for him to do was mix it all in the bathroom. The smell was not pleasant, but the eye of the apocalypse would not lie to him. The brew looked disgusting. The ingredients began to react with each other. The smell was not so strong now. This bath should help Anya discover the true essence of awakening. He hoped it was worth it, because this medicine cost several billion Republic coins. Sitting in the bath, the warmth of the potion pleasantly enveloped his body. The medicine had an effect on spiritual strength. Chains were formed that connected the body and soul spiritually. They joined with Anya, strengthening his spiritual energy, revealing the true essence of awakening. The sunny weather in the city changed to cloudy, and a thundercloud with lightning formed over the Bai family estate. The man with a bottle in his hand suddenly jumped up from the sofa. His shabby appearance indicated that he had probably attended an event where he had clearly overindulged. Golden chains extended from the mansion deep into the clouds. The man did not understand what was happening. He clearly saw the energy of awakening in the inner city. He became interested in who could do this. He couldn't believe his eyes. The awakening hall was located far from the city center. If someone had awakened, the energy fluctuations would not have reached him. The man assumed that since he was seeing things like this, it meant he hadn't drunk enough and took another swig from the unfinished bottle. The chains wrapped around Anya's body and gradually began to break. He lay in the bath until the morning. After waking up, he stretched sweetly. There were spiritual chains of awakening visible in his eyes. The money spent on the medicine was worth it. The young man received a new talent formed by the rules of the SSS rank. All spirits are intertwined with each other. But the power of heaven can break this barrier, dividing the power between creatures. Anya realized what kind of power he had gained and rejoiced loudly. He wanted to test his talent on someone. He called Bai Xiao. The girls guarded him all night. Baiji asked her sister what happened to their master. Xiao told her that she had no idea, and the girls looked at each other. The gold-ranked Beastmaster entered the bathroom at the master's request. The hero appeared before her in all his glory, completely naked. He enthusiastically announced that he needed her help in one matter, and asked her not to move. The girl did not expect to see Anya in a new role, and she blushed deeply from awkwardness. Bai Xiao immediately left the bathroom, apologizing to the master, saying that she could not help him. When the young man realized what had happened, he became embarrassed and ashamed. He went back into the bathroom and asked the girls to give him a minute to get ready. The guy got dressed and began to implement his plan. He asked the girl to relax and not resist. In his head, he said the name of the talent, the chain of heaven, and as if by magic, spiritual chains appeared around his hand. They wrapped around the girl's entire body. The end of the chain was moving. It needed to find a place to stick in. The spiritual chain entered the girl's chest. The girl's body was under Anya's control, as evidenced by the aura around her. He had to synchronize his spiritual energy with the flow of talent. And the first chain of heavens successfully completed the annexation. Bai Xiao received the enhancement of the water element talent. The hero then asked the subject to defend herself with all her might. The girl summoned a shield from her pet's space, the chains still wrapped around her, and looked at her to analyze the changes and reactions of the talent. The chains were in place and did not disappear after the protective equipment. Xiao was embarrassed by the master's intent gaze on her body. She sincerely did not understand what he was doing. The young man said that now the shield could be removed, and the next step could be taken. Location in the western district of Bailin City. The girl was in contact with Anya and reported that she had arrived at the specified location. The young man remained at home, supervising the assistant's movements. The chain stretched from it, through the door in the direction of the west. The connection with Shou was not interrupted or disappeared. The girl could not stand it any longer. Apologizing for her persistence, she demanded to clarify what was going on. She was worried that the master's behavior today was too unusual. At first he allowed her to see him naked. Then he made her make strange movements, examined her body. If he was tense, he could just ask her and her sister for help. The hero interrupted her and asked if she noticed anything on her body, but the girl saw nothing. He asked her to return as soon as possible. the master realized that she could not see the chain. Bai Xiao was left alone in the middle of the bustling city, completely confused about what was happening. The talent was unique. As long as it was connected to someone, external factors did not affect the connected one, and the chain of heaven had 3 characteristics. The first was secrecy. No matter what An did, Xiao would not be able to notice the chain. The second is coercion. As long as he used the chain, he could force the girl to share her talents by force. And thirdly, initiative. A normal exchange implies work in both directions, but it can shut down the exchange channel, thereby turning the exchange into robbery. With 3 chains, he can bind 3 different beast tamers, and with the help of the Eye of the Apocalypse, he will be able to wield the 4 royal talents. An moved to his animal space to check on his pets. However, what he saw shocked him. He was surprised at how his space had changed. The eye was fastened with chains, and the space itself became many times larger. Now he had a separate maritime territory, and volcanic, their scale was impressive. The hero assumed that every time he leveled up, his space would increase and change. He saw his pets and approached a small lake. The angry raven was blazing with fire. He attacked the lake in which there were fish. Scales decided to fight back, and he attacked the annoying bird with a stream of water. The guy, watching this performance, could not stand it and shouted at the animals to stop immediately. The fish tried to explain that the owner had misunderstood everything, but the young man could no longer be stopped. He scolded his pets that they were brothers who would have to fight side by side. Scales burst into tears, because the raven was the first to attack. The bird, in his defense, said that the fish kept splashing around in the water, and everything around was wet, and he didn't like that. And then Anya realized the situation, that the fish was practicing as usual, but the crow didn't like the remaining moisture after training. He came up with a brilliant idea to resolve the pet dispute. The hero grabbed the fish, saying that it had outgrown the pond and that he would give it a bigger one. They teleported to the water area. Seeing the endless body of water, Scales perked up. And then he jumped into the water. He felt great in the depths. Splashing out of the water, he transformed into his true form as a whale. Anya was glad that now his pet could splash around in comfort, without the constant control of his small form. It's the raven's turn. He also needs to find a comfortable place to live. They teleported to a volcanic area where a tree stained with the blood of a phoenix stood proudly. The tree could enhance the talents of fire elementals. The boy carefully placed the fire crystal on the twigs. A large amount of energy has a great effect on fire pets, and the raven can then restore its strength. The bird immediately lay down on the improvised nest, and was serious, and asked the crow if he had trained his skills in the same way as the fish. The red-winged raven slowly turned to face its owner, and then he stood on the stone, posing and saying that he would soon shine like the sun. The hero commanded the bird to use its powers to break a boulder that lay nearby. The pet flew high into the sky, fire hovering around him. Gathering all his fiery might, he directed his attack. The fiery stream towards the boulder spread into a bright light, but only a small stone broke off from the boulder. The proud raven was more than pleased with himself. However, An was not happy with his success, and offered to train him so that his strength would increase many times over. But the bird refused, because he was destined to surpass the sun itself. The hero expected this situation, so he took out another fire crystal. He presented it to the raven, rhetorically asking what it was that he had in his hands. Redwing was driven mad by what he saw, as it was a royal-level crystal core. With love, the raven immediately rushed to hug the core. However, not so quickly. The young man picked up the crystal, not allowing the bird to get what it wanted. An, with a malicious smile, asked the chick if he wanted to get this crystal. The bird looked at its owner with apprehension, and he offered him a bet. The raven agreed easily. The bet was that the raven would follow the boy's instructions. If the pet felt that the master's method worked, then the young man won. If not, then the raven would win. The proud red-winged one felt his superiority, so he agreed to his master's conditions. They started training, and showed the crow that in order to use the skill, he first needed to concentrate his energy. By compressing this energy, they improve the quality of the skill and increase its destructive power. But the raven didn't really understand what the trainer was trying to explain to him. So the hero decided to show the destructive power of compressed energy and threw a water projectile. The water bullet pierced the boulder. Redwing couldn't believe that the little water ball was stronger than his big fireball. But the guy's trick wasn't so simple. It turns out that because the raven heated the boulder, the young man simply applied cold water to it, which caused the destructive reaction. Having learned its lesson, the chick soared into the sky, forming a fiery cloud. He began to compress his energy as his coach had taught him. It produced a powerful explosion. The force of the blow was devastating. It managed to cut through an entire mountain on one side. The blow also passed through the opposite mountain, leaving a hole through it. The force of the bird was impressive. It was so impressive that Anne froze in genuine surprise as he watched the chick attack. He clearly didn't expect his new pet to have such destructive powers, like a nuclear explosion. The raven returned to its owner's hand as if nothing had happened. He truly possesses an amazing talent, and with the help of the boy's training, he will be able to develop his skills well. The hero asked his student if he was satisfied with the results of today's training. All that was required of the raven was to follow the owner's advice, and then he would certainly become even stronger. Redwing agreed with Anne, chirping happily. The guy had big plans for the new animal, but for now it was deservedly basking in the royal crystal. After all the training, the guy returned from space and went to the kitchen, where familiar faces were waiting for him. Ziyu happily greeted her little brother. Pukliash also greeted his brother Anya. The hero asked where the rest of the family members were. The child sulked with sadness. Tears welled up in his eyes. It turned out the others hadn't returned yet. Pukliash sadly noted that his father had also not been home for a long time, and tensed up perhaps something happened in Balin City. While Pukliash was trying to get through to Anya, the boy was examining his ability to cult the magical spider. Suddenly he asked his friend what he was doing there. Yen said that classes would start tomorrow and he came to him so that they could go to the Beast Tamer Academy together. The hero completely forgot that he was now a student. He asked the butler to prepare a car for them to go to the academy. The car was ready, and a girl was standing next to it. It was Chao Gubai, the same girl he had invited to move to their city. She greeted Master An. They hadn't seen each other for a long time. The girl was unrecognizable. She no longer had her glasses on, and her appearance was very neat and attractive. Something inside Anya started to pound, as if spring had arrived outside. The guy didn't expect his assistant to change so much. Feeling awkward in the conversation, he asked the girl how she liked their city of Balin. Gubai adjusted her hair, her face flushed, and she replied that she was doing great, thanks to him. They arrived at the Imperial Academy of Beast Tamers, a huge building standing majestically in the middle of the concrete jungle. The boys walked calmly along the corridor, looking for their office. Pukliash began to ask his friend who the girl was who went with them, and why he hadn't seen her before. He assumed she was from the daughter cities, but there was no answer. In the audience, the entire group turned their attention to the new arrivals. The boys began to grin, making angry faces. The female half was glad to meet Master Anya here. Yuan noted that now the hero would have no free time, and the master himself was only thinking that those present here were a bunch of assholes who knew nothing about hard work. The crowd surrounded the local star, and he only awkwardly greeted everyone. He wanted to discuss this situation with his grandfather. After all, the comfortable atmosphere for cultivation in a school is far inferior to the effect of a fight to the death in the wild. An unknown guy was watching the whole group. The black-haired youth's name was Long Ao Tien. He had an SS-rank talent but was missing a pet. Next to him stood his brothers. One was an A rank and the other an S rank. Luna was told that An was the grandson of the city's lord, and most likely he got here through connections. This news ignited the brunette, and he went straight to the hero. An noticed the impending threat, and with joy in his heart he assumed that this guy wanted to fight with him. Gubai stood to the side, who also saw all of this. The guys looked at each other angrily. One was of the water element, and the other of the fire element, complete opposites of each other, and knew that his opponent had good talent, but unfortunately he didn't have a beast, so he was still far from him. The girl interrupted their staring, which caused confusion. Gu defended the master, asking Lun to stop. Otherwise she would not be responsible for herself. The brunette was also not indifferent to the girl's beauty. Spring began to play inside him. Embarrassed, Lun asked for forgiveness for what he had done, which caused a violent reaction from the brothers, who did not understand what was happening. Another figure appeared at the door, reminding Bai Xiao An of the promise he made to her. It was Feng. She demanded the hero to fight her. This arrangement was in the guy's favor. Thanks to their battle, he would be able to shut everyone up for a long time, including that brunette. Therefore, he happily agreed to the girl's proposal, and he suggested that they have a duel on school grounds, to which Feng had already agreed. She trained for 2 whole months for this moment, to finally make her opponent. They decided to start the fight right now. The group of students were excited about the upcoming battle. They all wanted to see it. Long and his friends also wanted to evaluate the abilities of the students of Balin City and watch the fight. A group of students took their places in the stands, and in the huge arena stood the hero and the girl. Anya suggested that the little phoenix get straight to the point and not waste time. The girl was confident in her abilities, telling the guy that she would defeat him, and everyone would find out what she was capable of. Feng began preparing for battle. Fire began to come out of her, and she was holding firepower in her hands. Her entire body was enveloped in fiery energy. Wings formed behind her back, and she summoned her pet in front of her. A huge purple grenadier appeared. He had many characteristics and talents, and he himself was S rank. The hero had mixed feelings. He was not happy that his opponent was a bird again, but he managed to notice that this beast could grow from its initial level to an amethyst one. He was amused that the Feng family also had many secrets. Having summoned the bird, the girl asked her opponent how he liked her little animal. Most likely, he had never seen anything like it. Feng felt superior to An, and out of pity, she offered to tell him the name of her pet. However, the young man praised her family for their outstanding abilities, as she managed to make a contract with the purple grenadier, which cannot be found in the world of spider nests. However, the outcome of the fight remains unchanged for him. The girl was surprised that the guy recognized the essence of her pet. In conclusion, the hero asked the little girl to hurry, because once he summoned his spirit beast, she would have no chance of winning. Feng was outraged by the enemy's arrogance and set her pet on him, but Anne had already seen this attack. The bird flew at the guy with lightning speed, but he managed to easily dodge the attack. The pet fell to the ground, not expecting such a trick. Gathering his strength, the grenadier soared into the sky, bursting into flames. Anne was unpleasantly surprised that his opponent decided to use the same attack, but from behind, a fireball fell upon the hero, the flames completely engulfing the figure. The brunette didn't understand whether the girl had managed to overcome him so quickly. The young man's hand appeared from the fire. It was not the end. He survived the attack without a scratch, and the guy mockingly advised Feng to use his strongest attack. Surprise and anger froze on the little phoenix's face. In the stands, students discussed what had happened. Some admired the girl's talents, and others the boy's. Gubai was delighted with her master's skills. It was time for the gathering. The girl decided it was time for her special reception. The purple grenadier soared high into the sky and began to scream loudly, creating a sound wave. The attack was powerful. Everyone in the arena felt the wave, and created a protective dome to protect himself from the enemy's attack. However, he held on to it with all his might, and his friends and the brunette noticed this. The sound wave ended. Feng noticed that the enemy had lost his vigilance and decided to teach him a lesson. It turns out the girl's skill could penetrate the protective screen, which is what caused the damage to the guy. But that was not the end of the battle, and gathered his strength and summoned a giant white-scaled fish to put an end to the fight. The scale immediately appeared from the space, of impressive size. The bird seemed so weak and small against the backdrop of the giant whale. The grenadier clearly did not expect an enemy of such size. With one stroke of his fin, the fish blew his opponent away. The bird flew into the ground at full speed, next to its owner. Her condition was deplorable. The pet could no longer continue the fight. An leaned over Feng, waiting. With tears in her eyes, the fiery girl whispered in fear that she was giving up. But the young man reminded her of something they had discussed when making the bet. The little phoenix completely forgot about the losing condition, so she began to grin angrily at the hero. Nevertheless, she pulled herself together, and, without looking the guy in the eye, asked what he wanted from her. The winner snuck up behind the girl and whispered his wish in her ear. The girl panicked and blushed deeply upon hearing this. The group had already gone down to congratulate the guys, but they had to return to the office. Suddenly, the entire city and the arena began to shake. Those present did not understand what was happening and what the matter was. Suddenly, the boys realized that an earthquake had started, and the crowd hurried to take shelter in the building. The cod was strong. The arena began to crumble before our eyes. One of the building's reinforcement flew straight at Anya. The guy didn't even have time to move before two figures appeared next to him. The bodyguard sisters immediately appeared next to the master. The girls used protective equipment to protect the boy's head from damage. They told the young master to return to the lord's estate as soon as possible, as it was dangerous to be there. The hero asked Baiju to explain what was happening to the city, but the bodyguard was not entirely sure what was happening. But she had a bad feeling. Meanwhile, the city was slowly crumbling under the influence of a natural phenomenon of great amplitude. And 3 unidentified flying objects were visible above the city. They bore an unknown clan emblem. There were a few people inside, and bugs on the conveyor belt. The man in red asked his subordinates why the shield of Balin's city had not been repaired. The woman in the yellow mask replied that the earthquake had prevented the city lords from doing so. The man was glad. This cataclysm was only to their advantage. He ordered the explosive beetles to be prepared. At the same moment, Anya went with her sisters to the estate. The earthquake was no longer so active. The guy didn't want to live in ignorance, so he turned to the Eye of the Apocalypse with an answer about what was happening. The eye gave him the insight that 2 worlds were approaching each other and were about to collide, which was expressed in underground tremors. The young man could not believe what he heard. He could not comprehend how 2 worlds could collide. He became curious about what would happen when the two secret worlds merged. The eye told him that for 3 months, during the merging of the two worlds, earthquakes and tremors of varying amplitudes would occur in the world of spider nests. After 3 months, the collisions will subside, a spatial barrier will form, and the two worlds will merge. In a year, the process of merging the worlds will be finally completed, resulting in the emergence of a new, high-level secret world. Putting aside all prejudices, this news made Anya very happy. But as their city continued to collapse, explosions thundered throughout the city. There was a gap in the barrier above the city. The young man noticed this, assuming that the shield generator had most likely failed. Right above the breach, there were already unidentified flying objects. The man in red was glad that the barrier had not been restored, and they could easily make their way into the city. He kicked the explosive beetles that were on the conveyor belt, from which they flew down, one after another. The beetles were filled with explosive liquid on all sides, and a sharp spike stuck out at the top. They flew all over the city. The eye of the apocalypse warned Anya of the impending danger. He ordered the girls to immediately use their defensive skills. At that very second, a shield formed around the car. The explosive beetle hit exactly the car in which the hero was sitting. Meanwhile, at the city lord's palace, in the control room, the first level of combat readiness was declared for the entire city. Yuan-sun reported to the city lord that there had been an earthquake with a magnitude of 8, but the source of its origin had not yet been determined. The shield's energy core was attacked by fire spiders, and the defensive army was currently fighting off the beast's attacks, leaving the city in complete chaos. Lord Bai ordered that people be sent to repair the energy core and that all beast tamers be recruited to help defend Balin's city. He continued to give instructions that the tamers from the Public Security Bureau and the Lord's Palace would go to help the victims of the earthquake. The old man wondered if the spider cult had anything to do with this. A man approached him, hearing his grandfather's thoughts. He said that the spider cult was not capable of such a thing, and most likely it was just a coincidence. The soldiers called for reinforcements as the Awakening Hall was under attack. Grandfather realized that the spider cult's goal was to destroy the Awakening Hall and the very foundation of Balin's city. He ordered his subordinates to go to the hall to help, because Lord Wu would not last long. Anya and the bodyguards managed to survive the explosion from the beetles. However, the car met its end. From now on, they will have to go only on foot. A powerful explosion rocked one of the buildings not far from them. The hero noticed from which direction the noise came. It turns out that this was the Hall of Awakening, and it was already under active attack. And behind all this there was a spider cult. The guys were surprised by this fact. It was unexpected for them. The bombs continued to attack the hall. The cult wanted to break inside. The man in red was preparing to use his secret weapon. Soldiers in the city of Balin tried to put out the fires as there were wounded people under the rubble. Amidst all the commotion of the tragedy, no one paid attention to the looming new threat. Huge boulders rushed towards the city at full speed. Their landing was accompanied by a powerful shockwave. The boulders turned out to be white spiders, their appearance evoking fear. The soldiers were stunned. They did not expect to encounter ghostly spiders on their way. The huge creatures destroyed everything in their path, and the soldiers retreated. Those in the Awakening Hall did not know what was happening outside. One of the soldiers inside tried to contact those who were in the city. There was a furious knock on the door. Mr. Wu ordered the group to prepare for the attack. The door could not withstand the pressure that was being exerted on it, and gradually it began to sag. Eventually the entrance was destroyed and the spiders were able to get inside. The soldier did not have time to react to the enemy, and the ghost spider attacked him. The shield stopped working against them. Mr. Wu called upon his talent. A giant sword made of stones and crystals formed in his hands, and an elemental stallion was displayed on his back. The man ordered the squad to build a wall of shields. The soldiers obediently began to line up forward. Within seconds, a huge iron wall protected the building of the Awakening Hall. The Lord ordered to protect the crystal at any cost. He reinforced the living shield with his earth magic, filling everything with stones. The indestructible wall was fully prepared to repel the attacks of monsters. Mr. Wu whispered to the squad to be careful, as they only needed to buy a little time. This was his first attack on the court, and he wanted to retire with dignity. The enemy was very close. The commander ordered no one to surrender, because they were fighting for their city, for Balin. But the ghost spiders had their own answer to their defense. Wheels appeared under their paws. At all speeds, the insects flew into the protective wall. With the roar of the engine, the enemy rushed straight into the protective wall. One after another they crashed, accompanying the impact with an explosion. On the other side, Mr. Wu was calm. His barrier could withstand the onslaught for quite a long time. After another blow from the spider, the stone wall began to sag until it collapsed, creating a small gap. The spider immediately released a web at her. clinging tightly to the shield of one of the soldiers. The enemy made a sharp dash to the side, and the fighter who was holding the shield flew out of the protective wall. The Lord had not expected this turn of events. Now they had a hole in the wall. The opponents immediately took advantage of this and rushed inside, thus completely breaking down the defense built by the Lord. The enemies had advanced further, and something had to be done to stop them and protect the awakening hall. The man ordered to open fire to get rid of the attackers. The ghost spiders easily dodged the soldiers' bullets, attacking them along the way. The squad couldn't hit the enemy because the enemy was faster, so something had to be done. One of the monsters approached Lord Wu. He was prepared for this. Having driven the spiders into a trap, the man struck the floor with a stone sword, forming bayonets from the stone. The enemy was immobilized thanks to the Lord's ingenuity. The man was glad that the attack had finally been stopped. He wondered where Lord Bai was. There were almost no shields left for protection. The spiders began to smoke. Their backs split into two, and someone's figures could be seen from the steam. The entire resistance group watched this, not believing their eyes. From the spiders emerged female human-like creatures. The Lord noted that this was not the end, and more enemies emerged from the spiders. A woman in a red mask, with a crossbow at the ready, announced that a spider cult had invaded their world, and now they would have to accept their punishment. She fired an unusual projectile straight at the squad. It exploded immediately, catching up with the soldiers. Lord Wu formed a shield with his sword to protect his men from attacks. The girls rushed into battle. They had katanas in their hands, with which they began to cut down the unprotected soldiers, pouncing on them. The remaining group fired at the enemies, but even without their spider form, they were very agile, and with screams they got rid of the soldiers one by one. Lord Wu began to transform his sword. He built a thick shield covering the rest. The attackers couldn't break it so easily. Therefore, they decided to retreat. The Lord decided to take advantage of the enemy's lull. He ordered those who could still stand on their feet to take the wounded and retreat. Now everything depended on him and his pet. The man extended his hand and began to call upon the crystal space. Piles of stones that lay all over the floor began to rise up. They formed a dome, enclosing the Lord and the enemies inside. The girl did not appreciate the old man's selfless act, because he said that he wanted to retire. She sincerely didn't understand why he was fighting. Was a salary of 100 wen really that important to him? Mr. Wu grinned and told the girl in response that she wouldn't understand him. The conversations were over, and the order came from the Red Mask to attack the Lord. A fierce battle began. One girl attacked the pet, and the other the master. Then the guys began to attack their opponents. Meanwhile, the leader of the spider squad was preparing to attack with a crossbow. During the battle, no one noticed her. She aimed clearly and charged the projectile with her energy. Then she pulled the trigger. The loaded arrow flew straight to the target. The Lord sensed an impending threat. He won't be fast enough to dodge. His stone pet used its skill. A second before the shot, the horse erected a wall behind its owner. The gentleman began to swing his sword even more furiously. The enemy, retreating, dodged the blows. A stallion immediately appeared behind her. With a powerful blow from his horn, he knocked out the attacker, and he threw her to the other end of the dome. Lord Wu imbued his stone sword with fire, preparing to finish off his enemies. With one swing, like a whip, he directed his forces towards the leader. He managed to knock the woman down and destroy her crossbow. The remaining pawn of the Spider Clan approached the man from behind. She summoned her two-handed blades and rushed into battle. In a matter of seconds, the Lord summoned a protective dome. The girl tried furiously to get through, which provoked the man. And having guessed the right moment, he released the accumulated power of the sword into her. The blow hit the enemy straight in the stomach. The attack was of indescribable power. She went to her comrade in the wall. Mr. Wu informed the chief that despite the large amount of time that had passed, the Spider Clan had not changed. And as long as he, Xinghan, is here, they will not touch the core of the Awakening Hall. The old man's loud words did not impress the woman with the red mask, and she immediately rushed into battle to shut him up. She had an unusual sword with green energy, which was able to cut the man's weapon in half. An instant thought process occurred in the Lord's mind. There are 5 elements in the world that hold each other back, and only a tree could hold back the earth. While the man was stunned by what was happening, his pet came to his aid, forcing the enemy to retreat. The boys had time to rest. Lord thanked his pet for his help. The stallion erected protective crystals around them to stop the enemy. The leader jumped high into the air and threw her special knives into the protective walls. The gentleman did not expect such a trick. He noticed the charged energy inside the daggers. Energy was released from the knives, consuming the master and his pet. They managed to survive this powerful attack, which the Lord informed the girl about, noting that as long as he was alive, the crystal space would not go anywhere. He knew that the spider cult was afraid to kill a servant of the Temple of Awakening, because after that, they would be hunted. The woman didn't call his bluff. She didn't care how strong his crystal space was, because she knew perfectly well that everything had its limit. And this time, they were prepared, because they have ghost spiders that are able to break through his space. And while they were chatting here, the spiders were already attacking the dome in full force. In full combat readiness, they gnawed at the walls. All 3 spiders, from equal sides, dealt damage to the reinforced wall of the protective dome. Realizing that the Lord's end was near, he gave in and the dome began to gradually disintegrate. Before his death, he asked Lord Bai for forgiveness for not being able to cope with the core's defense. The walls had fallen, the defenders were finished, and now nothing stood in the way of the spider cult getting what they wanted. However, on the other side they were already met by reinforcements for the Lord. The girl in the mask did not expect such a turn of events. She froze in place. The enraged gorilla swung at the enemy, but the ghostly spider that arrived in time prevented him from killing the leader. Yuan Sui climbed down from the giant monkey to help Lord Wu. The beastman asked if the man was okay, but he only sarcastically replied that by his appearance, one could probably tell what condition he was in. While the gorilla was destroying the spider, Yuan informed the Lord that help would be coming soon. Lord Bai's crane immediately appeared above their heads. The old man was serious. The white crane grabbed the ghost spider and raised it high. Lord Bai shouted for Feng to catch the pass, and he threw the enemy to his comrade. Feng was ready, riding on a fiery horse. He commanded his pet to gallop forward. The man ran towards the passed ball, simultaneously loading his spear for a strike. The fire master crouched high and struck his opponent, thereby incapacitating him. The defenders of the Awakening Stone turned to the spider cult. Lord Bai told them that their operation had failed, and they were obliged to surrender immediately. The old man's serious look made the boss of the spider cult squad a little taken aback. They were driven into a corner, but then the woman in the red mask ordered them to proceed with Plan B. She would delay them, and they would have to take advantage of the opportunity. But one of the comrades interrupted the leader, simultaneously removing her mask. She sympathized with the boss, because she has a younger sister to take care of, and she has no family or other connections, so she wants to detain the opponents. The boss didn't have time to answer her subordinate. She was already on the spider's head. The girl quickly sat down in the cabin, asking the chief for permission to believe in her. The girl with the red mask handed the lone wolf her weapon, wishing him luck. The loaded revolver cylinder was full of energy. The cult squad stood in a pose to salute each other and praise the spider cult. The boss decided to cover for her comrade by scattering green bombs around the room. The defenders of the hall were protected from the explosions by Lord Bai's protective dome. However, these were smoke bombs that caught them off guard. The old man ordered the white crane to follow the thieves. A ghostly spider flew into battle with him. The boss and his subordinate moved towards the Awakening Stone while the smoke bombs were still in effect, but they were discovered by the defenders' pets. To help the spider cult achieve its goals, the spider began to release webs into the defense squad of Balin City. The gorilla was hit by gunfire, and its entire body was covered in sticky matter. Lord Feng's horse also got it. The squad, as if in chewing gum, was stuck in a web, and the spider managed to immobilize them. Lord Bai on the crane did not fall into the trap. The old man was surprised by the enemy's speed. Lord Feng told Lord Bai to follow the core thieves and they would deal with the spider. Meanwhile, the girls were almost at their destination. A couple of steps, and the stone would be theirs. The subordinate warned the leader that the crane was flying straight towards them. A single girl noticed that her boss might be in danger, and she had to help her somehow. At that very second, the defense squad safely got out of the spider trap. Gorilla and Mr. Feng aimed straight at the ghost spider to disable it. The monkey missed and hit the floor next to his opponent, causing him to rise into the air. Lord Feng crept up to help, swinging his loaded spear, catching the spider off guard, and he dealt a stunning blow. The beam from the spear cut through the body of the ghost spider, revealing its driver. Mr. Feng noticed that the intruder would no longer be able to disturb them. The defenders offered the girl to surrender. Their plan was doomed to failure. Lord Bai also cornered the spider cult boss and her subordinate, right in front of the Awakening Stone. The old man was surprised by the lady's stubbornness and asked if they really wanted to become his enemies. He raised his cane upwards, his gaze penetrating. If the opponents do not plan to retreat, then he will deal with them, and they may not expect mercy. A barrage of energy blades rained down on the intruder's squad. Mr. Bai ordered the pet to use the swift wind cannon skill. The girls were confused. A huge vortex flow was flying straight at the cult's subordinate. The boss methodically tried to break the attack with her katana, and she succeeded. Since the white crane belongs to the arboreal line, Lord Bai wouldn't be able to suppress their attributes, so another way had to be found to stop the villains. The woman with the red mask ordered her subordinate to go to the core while she would cover her, and they set about carrying out the plan Time was running out, they had to act quickly. The comrade rode below the lord, while the boss dealt him a distracting blow from above. The old man ordered the white crane to deal with the thief while he dealt with her leader. The girl in yellow threw the blade high into the ceiling. By clinging to the pipe, she managed to avoid being hit by the bird and rise up in time, and easily fly over an obstacle in the form of a pet. Like a spider, she moved nimbly on her blades, approaching her target. The blade caught on the door behind which was the awakening core. The girl made a sharp jerk with her whole body. While the boss was distracting Lord, her subordinate rose high above the safe doors. She managed to jump over them. She was already in the room next to the crystal. The old man noticed this. The thief was typing something on the console. The core was practically in her hands. The last thing she had to do was press the button. With a cry of glory for the spider cult, she set out to complete the mission. But at the last moment her hand stopped and a tremor ran through her whole body. Mr. Bai, using his cane, managed to put a collar on her, thus preventing her from pressing the button. The man looked towards the cult and turned to them, saying that it was all over. Meanwhile, the rest of the defenders were dragging the spider's driver out to take her into custody. The girl objected that it was their house too, and it is they who are considered the invaders here, and not they. They had no right to treat them like that. She was outraged that the defenders were portraying themselves as victims. Her patience snapped. She pointed the revolver her boss had given her and took aim. The shot was immediate. The bullet flew towards Mr. Feng, but he managed to easily dodge and the shot continued on its way. Her target was Lord Bai. She flew so fast that the old man simply wouldn't have time to dodge. His pet instantly exposed himself to the blow, thereby baffling his owner. The bullet entered deep into the wing. The energy spread throughout the white crane's entire body. Mr. Bai was shocked by what he saw and shouted at his pet, but the bird completely dissolved into thin air in a matter of seconds, leaving no trace of itself. The energy that was contained in the bullet was fatal. Along with the pet, the magical attributes also disappeared, including the old man's cane. Accordingly, the collar on the thief also disappeared, and now nothing was holding her back. She immediately pressed that very button. The bomb was activated. The boss gave the order to leave immediately, and they instantly began to rise outward. The spider cult accomplished its mission, albeit with minor losses, but they succeeded in achieving their plan. The bomb exploded, and a powerful explosion rocked the awakening hall. The news reported yesterday's events. An earthquake with an amplitude of almost 8 points was recorded. The death toll was just over 18,000. The protective barrier of Balin City was destroyed by a terrorist organization, which triggered a wave of third-level beasts. The soldiers are fighting bravely to suppress them. The terrorists also attacked the awakening hall. Lord Bai personally led officers and soldiers from various units to counterattack them. They managed to catch one of the terrorists. At the moment the situation is under control. Anne listened to this and worried about his grandfather. The news continued to report that after the attack, the deputy city lord and Jin Chong's son made a statement regarding the attack. A man in a suit on TV addressed the citizens, saying that together they would overcome this difficult time. While in the hospital, soldiers were transporting a wounded comrade. The fighter screamed in pain, and his comrade carrying him tried to support him as best he could. Anya watched this scene with sadness, his face frozen in sorrow and compassion. The soldier's legs were torn off. His colleagues shouted at him not to lose consciousness. One of the soldiers was his brother. He asked him to hold on to the man with all his strength. The boy needed urgent surgery, but because of the earthquake, there weren't enough doctors for everyone. They would have to wait for the doctor to arrive. The guy was completely pale. There was blood all over his clothes, bandages on his body, and hope and despair hung in the air. The soldier squeezed his brother's hand tightly, as if giving him his strength, and involuntarily plunged into memories of his past life. He remembered how he held his comrade's hand in the same way. The man in front of him was badly injured, but he was cheerful. He didn't expect that Anne would go all the way to save him. The young man was frightened by the captain's condition. But the man continued to joke, saying that at first the boy seemed heartless to him, and he could never have expected such a thing from him. Taking off his helmet, he put it on the soldier. Before his death, the captain regretted that he had not noticed the boy's kind heart right away. At these memories, Anne clenched his fist tightly. Bai Xiao gently touched the master's shoulder, inquiring about his condition. The guy replied that he was fine, but his speech was slurred. The boys continued down the hospital corridor. The young man was angry at the girls for not saying a word the entire time. He turned to them and indignantly asked what had happened to his grandfather. But someone called Anya by name. It was his mother. She was trying to explain what happened to her grandfather. The grandfather took off his oxygen mask to greet his grandson. The Lord asked those present to leave the chamber, as he wanted to speak with the young man alone. Grandfather asked Anya if he was wounded. The hero sat down next to the bed, replying that he was fine. But his gaze slid over his grandfather's mutilated body. The boy was very worried about him. The old man took the empty sleeve of his medical gown. For him, it was nothing. Right now, it's much more important for him to have some conversation with Anya. The hero noticed the tension on the Lord's face. He had never seen the diamond-level beast tamer so nervous. The grandfather asked the young man if he knew anything about the spider cult, and he replied that he only knew that it was a terrorist organization. That was the correct answer, the old man agreed. But before this incident, their strength was limited to silver-level tamers. But now he felt a diamond-level aura from them. Besides, he continued, they had then fully concentrated their forces on attacking the city of Balin. He was sure that they had plans for their city, and asked if he thought the earthquake was also part of their plan. The grandfather replied that this was clearly not their doing, but something more serious. With the help of the Eye of the Apocalypse, the hero was able to find out that Old Man Bai was completely unaware of the merging of the two worlds. What his grandson decided to tell him, citing his talent for intuition. Mr. Bai became very serious for a moment, asking the boy if he was confident in his words. Anya assured him that he had foreseen everything, and that everything was exactly as it was. The two worlds were merging, and this was the cause of the earthquakes. The grandfather believed him, and he decided to share his secret, that he actually comes from a primeval star. This news shocked the grandson. The old man began his story. When he was there, he was one of the candidates for the post of head of the Bai family, but back then he was arrogant and vain. Later, he made one mistake and was expelled from the Bai family because of it. That's how he ended up in the world of myriad spider nests. But the Bai family gave him a second chance. They said that he could return to his star if he managed to destroy the mother spider, the amethyst spiritual beast. He was full of anxiety and underestimated the mother spider. At that moment, the red-eyed goldfish was seriously injured, after which it lost the opportunity to evolve. And now the same fate has befallen his white crane, which he lost in battle. The grandfather was broken. He lost his last hope of defeating the mother of spiders. The grandson took the old man by the shoulder and encouraged him to say that he still had this chance. But Lord Bai was completely dejected, as if all hope was dying in him. This was no longer his fight. He told the young master that he was now the future of the Bai family, and remembered his words about wanting to become the strongest beast tamer. And if his desires have been like this up until now, then the young man needs to go to the primeval star. In a year, he will be able to take part in a secret selection, and if he manages to get into the top 10, he will be able to return to his original star. Only there will he have the opportunity to become the strongest tamer. The grandfather began to take something off his neck, while continuing the conversation about how he knew very well what his grandson was capable of, and that their family, with its resources, would be able to provide him with all the necessary support. He handed the hero the key to the treasury, informing him that it would contain enough resources to provide him with a diamond level. The old man asked the boy not to follow in his footsteps, and remember that the most important thing in this world is human connection. These words reminded Anya of his captain, who had told him the same thing in his past life. He gratefully accepted his words along with the key to the treasury. The hero's sister sat and waited for her family. She was worried about her brother. The maids tried to calm her down so that she wouldn't worry. Anne walked through the door, and Ziyu noticed him immediately. The boy, looking at the key, was deep in thought. He was thinking about the words his grandfather had told him. The little sister rushed at full speed to her long-awaited little brother. Like an angry kitten, Ziyu flew high above the guy. The girl was so happy to see him that she jumped on his neck, surprising everyone present with her antics. She was glad that at least her brother returned home and asked how he was feeling. The boy patted his little sister on the head with care, replying that everything was fine. He thought that he had a wonderful family in this world, and he should cherish it. After experiencing death in his past life, he was afraid of becoming weak and helpless, so he wanted to become the strongest beast tamer. But now he realized that this was not the most important thing at all, and family ties that helped him live again. After some time, An was fully equipped for adventure. He told his sister that his parents would be back soon and instructed her to give him the box. Ziyu replied with complete confidence that she would carry out his instructions. He explained to her that her older brother had urgent business and would have to leave for a while. He asked her to behave well and wait for her mom and dad to return. Gubai, also equipped, approached them and greeted the master, and asked the girl if she was ready to join him on this dangerous adventure. Gu replied that she was ready to follow him wherever he went. On the way, he asked her if she was afraid of this, but the girl was sure that everything would be fine as long as he was around. After going out into the city, Xiao Gubai asked Mr. Xiaoan if he had decided where they would go first, but he was unable to determine the exact location. This time, Xiaoan is going to improve his skills, but he needs to find out some information first. He asked the Eye of the Apocalypse how to return his grandfather's hand. A test tube containing the water of life appeared in front of him. Spiritual water will also be needed to cure Grandpa's red-eyed goldfish. Tianshui spiritual water is an amethyst-level material that is an excellent source of water element. The hero thought and began to choose. The water of life. The spiritual water of Tianshui. But the search results surprised him. The water of life. Search results 5 and 5. The spiritual water of Tianshui. No results found. Unlike the water of life, there is no information at all about the spiritual water Tianshui, and it is unknown whether it is possible to somehow repair the core of the Awakening Hall. Because the core of the Awakening Hall was created on the primeval star, it cannot be repaired at the moment. After that battle, Grandpa suffered great losses, which is why the hero left him the Purple Thunder Eagle Egg and the Amethyst-level evolution path. He didn't understand what to do and where to go first, because he didn't have the slightest information about this spiritual water. But suddenly something strange happened. Xiaoan couldn't move. Maybe this is the Eye of the Apocalypse, the guy thought. A hand appeared from behind his back and pointed a finger at a certain point. Did you find something? The girl asked him. But first, you need to leave the city. The eastern gate is open and you can go through it. The girl had a bad feeling. She didn't want to walk through the wasteland. Xiaoan laughed. They were beast tamers after all and had nothing to fear. Besides, they could just join some adventurers. They are a group of mercenaries who venture beyond the city limits to explore the wild. At the eastern gate, everyone was asked to go through the security check in order of queue. Xiaoan was shocked and said that Gubai was right. Suddenly the guys notice that some truck is moving straight towards them. The guy manages to react and jumps to the side along with Gubai. For a couple of seconds they freeze in one position, holding hands. When they realize the situation, they suddenly move away from each other, and the hero simply asks if the girl is okay. The influx of monsters had only recently begun, and it was unclear why so many people were leaving the city. It's just a bunch of rich people who think the city is doomed, so they hire groups of adventurers to protect them in the wild. As soon as one rich man hires a group of adventurers, the rest immediately follow his example. The girl was broadcasting safety precautions through a megaphone. People should be wary of ferocious animals, carefully check vehicles before leaving the city, and so on. All personnel leaving the city are required to surrender their weapons and equipment, present their identification, and undergo a search. After the recent incident, Grandpa didn't close the city to conduct an investigation. Perhaps he did it for a false sense of security. Those leaving the city must wear special protective masks. The heroes took advantage of them, and in just a few moments they found themselves outside the city. It seems that this line of defense has destroyed countless animals. First you need to find the adventurer's observation station. Soon Xiaoan found the station and pointed with her finger in the direction they needed to go. When the heroes approached there, they were a little confused by the atmosphere that reigned around this place. It was exactly what they were looking for. The red gorilla flag was fluttering in the air. The heroes were met by two guys, Feng Lang and Lao Duan, who immediately began to evaluate the newcomers. They began to approach the heroes, and the girl noticed that they did not look like good people at all. It is unknown what changed in Xiao Gubai after she arrived at the Bai family, but since then, she has always attracted the attention of other people. Lao Duan said that it was very dangerous outside the city walls, and offered to protect the girl, after which this big guy grabbed Xiaoan. Apparently he was talking to him and not Gubai. This behavior began to anger the hero. Before Lao Duan could blink, he was already flying in the opposite direction. He asked Feng to help him, saying that this guy really was some kind of crazy person. Xiaoan advised against taking risks and not getting close to him. He really did have a strong, murderous aura. But their showdown was interrupted by a voice from the loudspeaker. Sasha asked the deputy head what had happened here and why there was so much noise. "There must be another beast attack," answered the deputy head of the squad, Chi Min. "According to the thermal sensors, there are about 200 to 300 animals there." Feng Lang reported that things are going badly now. "A group of ferocious beasts is approaching from the east. They will be here in about 5 minutes. The brute asked Xiaoan to let him go, since they were now in the same boat. He's not going to start a fight when there are ferocious animals approaching. The hero let him go and asked him to stay away from them. Lao Duan ordered the deputy chief to be called quickly. There was chaos outside. "Stop panicking," shouted the silhouette on the roof. "It's too late to think about retreating to the city. We need to join forces, and only then will there be a chance. At least there is someone here who is fully aware of the situation. Chi Min is a silver-level red gorilla beast tamer, ready to fight on the front lines. But she needs someone to take on the other side of the camp. Unfortunately, no one who could handle this task is going to put forward their candidacy. Someone from the crowd shouted out that he also had a silver level. This guy stepped forward and said that if he was given more firepower, he would definitely be able to handle it. Xiao An couldn't believe his eyes. Another rich brat, thought Qiming. But was he really willing to do this? She then gave the order to 2 guys to take with them members of other mercenary groups, heavy weapons, and go to the other side of the camp. Xiao An thought that this man was completely incompetent, and asked Gu Bai to stand behind him so that she could be ready to protect him if necessary. The red gorillas were ordered to get ready. There was no time to shirk. Someone was saying a prayer over the magic pendant. The man held the pendant over the book and did not stop reading. This voice became louder and louder and could be heard everywhere. Lao Duan asked the hero if he was also a beast tamer. After all, judging by his skills, he was quite a talented guy, and also incredibly strong. Duan even thought that Xiao An would be better suited for this role than that guy. It seems your brain is also full of muscles, Xiao An replied calmly. He really did have a sharp tongue, but it seemed like Gu Bai was scared right now. She was really shaking like a leaf on a tree. The guy approached her and asked if everything was okay. She replied that she was fine, just a little nervous. Xiao An asked her to always stay close, and everything would be fine. The animals are already close. Everyone get ready. Don't shoot. They're about to step into a minefield. These monsters are already very close. Everything is going according to plan. The area is foggy. The mines have gone off. Jiqing has created a truly amazing minefield. Some of the monsters were immediately shattered into pieces by the explosion. But they are still quite durable. You need to connect weapons. A couple of animals broke through to Lao Duan. You need to be at full strength. One of the animals still managed to escape the automatic machine guns. Jiqing was furious that Feng Ling didn't help when he saw it with his own eyes. Lao Duan said that the caliber of these machine guns was too small, and he didn't like it. Huge caliber is best. The animals were fired upon again with even greater force. The bronze-level beasts are already close, and Xiao An's eyes show the eagerness to fight. But then that same guy appears, saying that it's finally his turn to join the battle. We need to dump the gasoline canisters before it's too late. Everyone started to help and carry out the order. The canisters fall down directly onto the animals. The teams work quite harmoniously. Xiao An noted the adventurers' good work. Of course, red gorillas are one of the best groups in the entire wasteland. They are handling this confrontation well. But it seems that the main beast is already very close. Xiao An immediately realized what to do. He calls on the Eye of the Apocalypse. This is a fierce alchemy beast. End silver tier. Talent. Broken iron. Battle cry. Green. Iron jaw. Blue. Rust coating. Green. This beast began to change in its appearance. Feng Ling reports seeing 7 to 8 silver-level pigs. These words surprised Lao Duan. He turned to this rich boy and said that he would leave the rear to him. He adjusted his glasses with a smile and agreed. He raised his hand up and commanded the golden horned toad to come out. Golden horned toad, level, mid-silver, talent, flexible body, skills, toad bomb, long tongue, metal body. Silver tier beasts strengthen the beasts around them, so you need to deal with them first. Qiming gave the order to the red flame gorilla to act. This is a truly powerful opponent. This gorilla scattered the animals one after another in different directions. Qiming asked the gorilla to use one of his special moves. She obeyed and immediately took action. It was a red lotus explosive box. She was then informed that the military was already on its way and would arrive in approximately 8 minutes. She asked everyone to hold out a little longer, because reinforcements were already on the way. But one of the guys suddenly froze. A huge shadow of an unknown creature fell on him from behind. But fortunately, Xiao An was nearby and was able to quickly react to the danger. He began to fight these creatures alone. The guy behaved quite calmly. He was confident in his abilities. After finishing, he noticed Gu Bai and asked if her spider had reached the bronze level. She was actually able to improve her level using materials from the black market. The guy didn't understand how one could be so lucky. Meanwhile, the battle continued. Unfortunately, the firepower was weakening and it was time to start using spirit animals. The guy with glasses ordered the golden horned toad to use its tongue. It was something unusual. One toad was able to destroy several animals at once with its tongue. Xiao An realized that everyone was giving it their all and he couldn't fall behind either. He decided to send his red-winged raven forward. He asked him to stop fooling around. He didn't give the raven any commands about what he was doing. The raven is the embodiment of the sun. Does the guy really think he needs any commands? This clearly angered Xiao An, who punched him hard in the face. Meanwhile, on the other side, that monster is extremely fast. There is no way to keep up with it. Now you just need to wait for the right moment. Qiming suddenly yelled at the guy, asking what he was doing. He ran out of cover and shouted that he would fight to the death. Opposite him stood a huge silhouette of an unknown person. the sight of which could have already drained all his strength. Cheemin didn't understand what kind of monster this was. Was it really a gold level? The beasts have broken through the eastern line of defense and are currently heading towards the camp. Misfortune never comes alone. Feng Lang was given coordinates by radio. He was to open fire at 6 o'clock. For this service, he jokingly said that the deputy would owe him dinner. The shooting began and all the bullets hit the target. The deputy gave the order to her guerrilla that it was necessary to act right now, and he used a fire shot. Everything was shrouded in fog from the gunfire. No one present could understand what was happening. Xiao An ordered the red-winged crow to go there. Meanwhile, Cheemin defended herself from this monster using a protective dome. She asked the red flame gorilla to back off. The monster had already grabbed the deputy by the throat, when suddenly, out of nowhere, Xiao An's red-winged crow appeared behind him. There was an explosion, and the opponents were scattered in different directions. Lao Duan, who had managed to grab the deputy, asked if everything was okay with her, and she replied that it was. But if they don't deal with these beasts now, it will be the end for them all. Someone has to hold him back for them to have any chance. It's time to use the alchemical bullets that Ji Qing gave us. Feng Ling hoped that these bullets would not break his precious rifle. Unfortunately, only the sight remained from the rifle. Everyone was sure that the monster could not withstand such a shot. They continued to look in that direction. And a moment later, they saw that very creature in its entirety. The shots had not harmed it in any way. It rushed towards the heroes. The entire space glowed purple from the flash of the impact. This beast is truly worthy of the gold level. It has incredible speed. But Xiao An is not someone who will give up so easily. The movements were too fast, and it was impossible to follow his movements with the naked eye. Also, this creature was very strong, and because of this the shield could soon be destroyed. And so it happened. The shield cracked, and it seemed that the final blow was about to be dealt. Luckily, someone managed to grab the hero just a centimeter away from the monster's clutches. It was Gu Bai. It was she who saved the guy from death. He immediately began to thank the girl, and immediately began to apologize to her for falling on her. She saved the guy with the help of the lava spider, and now gave him the order to use the lava splash. This monster dodged again. It's just amazing. Even with his speed, he was unable to dodge a long-range rifle attack, but at the same time, he easily dodged any attacks from the spirit beasts. Most likely, he is only able to sense vibrations of spiritual power. He does not perceive physical information. Xiao An has come up with a way to defeat this monster, but he needs the help of mercenaries. But at that moment, they were already running away as quickly as possible. It became clear that now the heroes could only rely on themselves. But then a guy with glasses joined them, reminding them that he was a silver-level animal tamer. Golden Horned Toad, Obsession. The animal immediately swallowed the guy after these words. An A-level talent that allows one to become possessed by a spirit animal, where the mind and body merge together, and various attributes greatly enhance new skills. It's a pretty useful skill, even if it looks pretty ugly. This toad was already standing in front of the monster and was ready to attack. The guy shouted that he wanted to demonstrate to them the power of Ming Xiao. That's his name. And now Xiao An was convinced that he was right. The monster only distinguishes targets that possess spiritual power. He was confident that his plan could work, but Gu Bai was a little worried. They crossed their arms and the guy calmed her down, saying that together they should definitely be able to handle it, especially since she had done it before. Xiao An had no doubts about his command and ordered the action to begin. He stood right in front of this monster, the hammerhead shark, and glowing with his energy, he invited us to come to him. Even with its high speed, this creature slows down before each attack. He understood that the monster now saw only blinding lights. He ordered the red-winged raven to act. Everything worked out. The raven's attack hit the target. The raven was supposed to restrict his movements. A fire tornado formed around the monster. Meanwhile, Gu Bai asked the lava spider to use its web. And now it's time for the final attack. An atomic beam that engulfed the entire space with its flash. A checkpoint near the border of Balan City. They managed. The hero asked Gu Bai if everything was okay with her. She answered positively. But they suddenly realized that the monster was still alive. This was really not a joke. Xiao An realized that he would have to use something else. He summoned a huge whale, which emerged from the ground and began to suck the monster into itself. It is a white-scaled giant fish. But suddenly, Xiao An fell to his knees. He didn't understand what was happening to him, as if something was eating away at his strength. Lao Duan meanwhile opened the bunker hatch, thinking that everything was probably about to end. Cheemin asked him to check if there were any survivors. But their camp had been wiped off the face of the earth, so he doubted there were any people left there. But suddenly in the distance they saw those same two newcomers. Xiao An was completely exhausted and most likely needed help. He passed out. In this state, it seemed to him that he was going deeper and deeper under the water. He was short of breath, but suddenly he began to hear voices in his head. Someone was calling his name, but the boy couldn't understand whose voice it was. This caused him to suddenly open his eyes and come to his senses. Sasha and Gubai stood over him. The girls joyfully shouted to the doctor that he had woken up. He was fine. He just probably spent too much spiritual energy. But he didn't believe that the upper limit of his energy could be so low. This shouldn't happen. Lao Duan came in and told them that his boss was waiting for him. The heroes went outside, where Xiaoanya was already waiting for Qiming by the fire. She didn't expect this guy to be so capable. That's why they just abandoned him and ran away, Xiaoan asked in surprise. The hero can blame her as much as he wants. But still, Qiming is the vice leader, and she is responsible for the lives of her people. And if she had known that Xiaoan was capable of wiping out the entire camp, she would not have done it. Qiming invited the hero to join them, but the guy didn't want to trust them right away, because if he was abandoned once, it could happen again. But they have lost several of their people and are no longer as strong as before. They have business to escort the employer to the city of Jiaolin. This city is on the way to the city of Jumu. You can get there by riding on their tail. The deputy head suggested not to give up so quickly, and offered compensation of 30% of the proceeds. Xiaoan accepted the offer but added that he did not join them to work for them. Red Guerrilla Outpost near Jiaolin City. Lao Duan complained of fatigue. He had already lost count of how many times he had to repair the engine. They planned to stop at this place today and head to Jiaolin City tomorrow. But Xiaoan asked why they didn't do it today. At night, this forest becomes extremely dangerous. Even gold ranks can die there. Suddenly, a nasty squeaky voice was heard, shouting, asking why they weren't there yet. The girl in the vulgar outfit screamed that they were all a bunch of scum and that this trip was absolutely disgusting. Sasha asked her to shut up if she valued her life, as these sounds could attract wild animals. This girl's brother is the mayor of Jiaolin City, and he is a gold-level expert, so she demanded to be treated with respect. A guy appeared from behind her and started asking her to calm down. But she didn't stop screaming. She didn't give her money to suffer. How could she even think of insulting her bodyguards in the middle of the wild? Qiming still said that they would spend the night here today and move on tomorrow. Everything is quite primitive, and the guys have a bad feeling. Xiaoan smelled a strange odor. At that moment, Gubai added that she was starting to feel unwell. The bodyguards looked into the tent to check if the heroes had turned on. It actually worked. Everyone was out cold. This drug is quite effective. The thing is, this guy has outstanding combat power. He could replace Feng Lang, but to do that, he needs to win his trust. They even suggested that Xiao An was the young master of some prestigious family and had come to the wild for training, and that they could ask for a huge ransom for him. Then they could stop their business and no longer have to risk their lives. Lao Dan noticed that someone was missing. Behind them, there was a mysterious man who was reading some kind of address to God. This angered Qiming. Why was this man still conscious? This couldn't be, because the substance that Sasha used could kill even an elephant. Lao Duan pointed his gun at him and asked him to stop his legal nonsense. He raised his hands up and asked them to calm down so they could talk calmly. Qiming guessed that this man was a member of the spider sect. They certainly didn't expect this. But Xiaoan was also conscious. It was a good coincidence for him. The guy knew about this paralyzing substance in advance and simply pretended to take their bait, while he himself put on a mask. It seemed to him that these guys were ordinary kidnappers, but he never thought that the spider cult could be involved in this. He decided to just observe what was happening. Qiming asked what the spider sect wanted from them. This man is a direct agent of the cult. His codename is Alpha. His job is to recruit geniuses into their cult. And he's not interested in all these guys, except for 2 newcomers. They're looking for people who are capable of defeating gold rank beasts and above. Qiming didn't like this. She immediately said that it was her product, and if he wanted to talk about buying it, then it was worth discussing. But the man replied that the spider sect does not do business with other people. It turns out that he just wants to take them for free. But why these 2 appeared so suddenly was not entirely clear. Xiaoan understood. He saw a holographic projector. A look of horror appeared on Qiming's face. Someone had shot this preacher. It was Feng Lang. It was also a shock to everyone how he survived. But the shooter missed, and the man is still alive, although wounded. At this moment, Lao Duan also discovered that it was a hologram, and he was alone here. Of course, the team didn't like that the man wanted to fool them. But he said that their priest was on his way here, and if they touched him with even a finger, they would die a terrible death. But before he could finish his words, everyone immediately pounced on him in a crowd and began beating him. At that moment, a priest of the sect was indeed approaching them. They were preparing to land. The adventurers immediately heard some strange sounds. The preacher's face immediately changed, and he whispered that the priest was already here, and that it was the end for them all. Some shots and flashes started to be heard. Xiaoan couldn't understand what was happening. Animal race, corpse beast, level, gold tier peak, talent, eyes of fear, skills, mystic flame, illusion of fear, shadow dash. The name of this priest was Arthur, and he asked where the two he had come for were. Xiaoan had been conscious all this time, and now he could definitely feel that frightening aura. Lao Duan couldn't understand what he was going to do, and pointed his weapon at him. But this didn't stop the priest. Qimin realized that she couldn't move. Approaching the boys, the priest began to ask the mother of all spiders to save these lost children. He took out the spider venom ascension elixir, a spiritual medicine created from a mixture of the essence of the demonic illusory spider and various herbs. When this drug enters the human body, it enhances control over the introduced sphere of existence. Xiaoan grabbed the priest's hand sharply and said that he had no dealings with people like him. But he thought that these were just banal tricks. The guys needed to get out of here quickly, and the hero began to ask Gubai to wake up. Having picked up the girl in his arms, he rushed to run away from this place as quickly as possible. This sleeping pill had a very strong effect, and the girl still could not come to her senses. The hero scanned the surrounding environment with the eye of the apocalypse. Near them there was a banana plant, a hunter plant, which could be used for their own purposes. The banana tree was blocking their path. Gubai was still under the influence of the drug, so their movements were limited for now. The followers are still in the air and we need to figure out what to do. We'll have to use Imperial space again. Last time it was able to save the heroes from a nuclear explosion. Now that Gubai is safe, all that remains is to deal with the followers. And we also need to resolve the issue with the banana tree. Considering the fact that it is night now and there is a banana tree nearby, the advantage is on Xiaoan's side. Meanwhile, the team of adventurers was bound by magic and could not move. This male preacher asked the priest for help while kneeling, but he only asked the mother of spiders to guide his soul to the promised land. It was quite unexpected. The priest killed his subordinate for some reason. Fan Ling reported the situation. His weapon was completely broken, and he could not help them. Qimin couldn't believe that this was how her end would be. The priest was informed that the boy had been found, but the girl was not with him. He ordered Xiaoan to be brought to him. The hero was chased, but he was only glad they fell for his trap. As those monsters began to approach him to grab him, Xiaoan immediately erected a protective dome above himself. They clearly didn't expect this, as they were immediately grabbed by the banana tree's vines. It was a tree spirit beast. Of course, the guy exclaimed joyfully. The goal was achieved. The banana hunter only attacks those who invade its territory. Their animals are too big, so as long as they are on the edge of his territory, the banana hunter will consider them invaders. And the very moment he considers them invaders, he will punish them with his most terrifying technique, the completed form of banana hunter. He will suck all the strength out of them. Banana fruit is a silver-level material rich in vital energy and can be used to treat various diseases and ailments. Given their vitality, they can serve as a substitute for some of the materials used in creating life essence potions. Xiaoan cut off a banana branch from the tree and immediately felt a pleasant aroma. It was so enticing. But the hero got a little distracted and crossed the line. Perhaps the tree didn't notice. Perhaps it was because all its attention was focused on sucking out spiritual energy. Well, then the hero is safe. But then a frog jumped on him again, and Xiaoan even thought that he was cursed in some way that attracted frogs. And then he felt something alive behind his back. Meanwhile, the priest demanded to be informed of the situation, and received a response that they would need reinforcements. The souls of the Alpha team will become part of the Great Spider Queen. Qimin was shocked and didn't understand what was happening. The priest told his multitude of spiders to begin to act. Fear, horror, and incomprehension appeared on the faces of each of the heroes. From now on, they will all obey the orders of the sex priest. Otherwise, the explosive spiders on their necks will detonate. Meanwhile, Xiaoan was running as fast as he could, trying to escape from the banana beast. He already thought that this was really his end. But the hero was lucky and was able to leave the territory of the banana hunter. Plant-type beasts were indeed extremely powerful. Xiaoan doubted that he would be able to form a contract with even one of them. But suddenly something caught his attention. It seems there is someone here. People from the spider sect are really pursuing the heroes. Lao Duan couldn't even imagine how one could look for them in the forest in the middle of the night. At this time, the priest again turned to the mother of spiders with a request to help and show his servants the right path. Xiaoan began to sense danger, and it was at that moment that the group of hunters who were after him saw him. He couldn't understand why the adventurers joined the spider cult. Ji Qing pointed a gun at the hero and ordered him not to move. All he had to do was use the same trick. He had already used this many times, and fortunately this time the hero managed to escape again. The priest didn't like that they weren't doing any work, but were just messing around. Chimin was dissatisfied and shouted that they were the only beast tamers here, and they couldn't be compared to ordinary people. The priest reminded them that the heroes had bombs attached to their necks, and that they had no right to set their own conditions. These words made the chief very angry. She relayed the information to Feng Lang that everything was fine, but there were bombs attached to their necks, and he replied that he would try to help somehow. But they still didn't know how exactly these bombs worked. Feng Lang had better not show himself until this became clear. Xiaoan hid behind one of the trees, and a strange painful sensation appeared in his hand again. The source is damaged, spiritual energy regeneration is weakened, the upper limit of spiritual energy is reduced by half. It seems the hero has used too much spiritual energy. He doesn't know how long it will last. It feels like this day will never end. The adventure team wandered throughout the forest trying to find Xiaoan. The hero watched them and still could not understand why they joined the spider cult, what the reason was. But suddenly he noticed an explosive spider on his neck. This means that they are forced to do such things. It was the turn of the red-winged crow. But Xiaoan asked not to kill anyone. He needed to talk to them. Raven replied that he understood everything and Xiaoan must have come up with some plan to protect himself. Xiaoan still asked the crow not to repeat the mistake he made last time. This glow immediately attracted the attention of the heroes, and they even thought that it was just a falling star. But a moment later there was a powerful explosion. Lao Duan managed to react and jumped to the side along with Sasha. At that moment, the gorilla Qiming rushed to attack the red-winged crow. But Xiaoan's spiritual beast was incredibly strong, and apparently this iron-headed priest is not going to help. Something had to be thought up urgently. Lao Duan joined in to help, but this crow was impossible to hit even with a shotgun. All shots and blows were sent back from the raven. Xiaoan was not satisfied with the work of his beast. He disobeyed again. And then the hero decided to go out himself and just asked to talk. "We have nothing to discuss," Qimin replied arrogantly. She had a reason for wanting to take the hero, but Xiaoan had no intention of cooperating with the sect. It looks like a battle is unavoidable this time. And the gorilla rushed towards the hero with renewed vigor. The hero had little spiritual energy, and he understood that he would not last long, so this time he covered himself with a magical shield. He thought a good option would be to simply throw his shield towards the enemy. Qimin remarked that it was quite ingenious to throw his shield at her. However, this is not a training fight at school. There aren't all those rules and restrictions here. Qimin used the power boost. This frightened the hero considerably. He began to think that this was the end for him. Qimin actually knocked the guy to the ground with one blow. The spider cult is an enemy of their federation. And does Qiming really believe that they will let them live after capturing Xiaoan? "What do you know?" she shouted back at the guy. But he suddenly grabbed her by the head and pulled her closer to him. He understood perfectly well that they were all simply being intimidated, and it can help them get rid of spiders on their necks. But why would Qimin believe this guy? He knows that their friend Feng Lang with an injured arm is in the bushes behind them. Feng Lang immediately received orders to act. Everything around was shrouded in fog and Feng asked no one to move. But Qimin shouted that they weren't finished yet and had no intention of giving up. They held Xiaoan by the arms and dragged him to the priest, saying that they had caught him. Now he had to let them go. But what about the girl? She also needed to be brought to the priest. But they didn't agree on this. The condition was to bring only the guy. He reminded them again that there were explosive spiders on their necks. But now Qimin replied that it didn't matter anymore. At that moment, Feng Lang jumped out of the bushes and started shooting at the priest. The team was ready for this. We need to act now. Ironhead wasn't prepared for this. A couple of minutes ago, Xiaoan advised the guys to think about his proposal. They used a smoke bomb to block the view of the spiders on their necks, but they didn't know if the device was wiretapped, so they should have spoken more quietly. Xiaoan had time to study this beast, and was sure that there was no wiretapping there. Otherwise, he would not have spoken so loudly. Then Qimin asked to tell them the plan. Firstly, the explosive spiders on the necks have extremely low intelligence, so the priest gives orders with the staff, so it is necessary to limit his movements and not allow him to use the staff. After which all that remains is to simply destroy the staff. However, he is a gold-level beast tamer, and Xiaoan is confident that he will resist. This is why it is worth coming up with a backup plan. And so it all happened. The priest became angry that he had been too kind to these impudent people. The plan was this. After the priest broke free from control, he would decide to act. He will want to give the order to the spiders to detonate. But explosive spiders have quite a long delay before exploding. They do not explode instantly. At this moment, he will be most vulnerable. But still, he was able to grab Ji Qing by the neck and said that the lady knows everything in advance. His shield is extremely strong. But when someone manages to get close to him, this shield becomes completely useless. The girl asked with a smile on her face whose turn it was to cleanse the sins. Their plan worked. Everyone was happy to finally get rid of these spiders. They gave the priest even more speed, and he moved in the opposite direction from them. After which the whole team also rushed to run away. In fact, the priest had not left them. He was close by again, and began to make some kind of signs with his fingers. The entire space was engulfed in purple fire. This is a gold-level beast tamer domain. Feng Lang began to call the captain as quickly as possible. The signal is too weak, so you'll have to use something else. He pulled the antenna out of the radio and began to try again to establish contact with the captain. The signal arrived. The fair-haired girl told the captain that Feng had important news. This angered the captain. They were having a meeting. The guy said that the spider cult had trapped them in a green banana forest, and the deputy head and the others were asking for help. The captain didn't understand what the spider cult was doing there, and why it would fight her people. They must have had some kind of misunderstanding, added the unknown silhouette opposite. But the last person who dared to touch her people is now underground. Meanwhile, the priest's power seemed to grow stronger, and took more and more space under its influence. The parasitic bat, the three-headed corpse of the spirit beast, the spiders of Neverwinter. He gave them all the order to attack. Xiaoan wasn't sure if they were really spirit beasts. They all looked pretty vile. He turned to the raven and said that it was time to use all the crystals he had eaten. Xiaoan began to change his appearance in an instant. His body, arms and face were covered with armor. The attribute has been changed to fire, so if its source is damaged, it will not affect the hero in any way. The talent for fusion is simply magnificent. It's a pity that Ming Xiao didn't know how to use this talent. Xiaoan is now definitely making full use of it. The priest also replied that fusion is a rather rare talent. However, he was convinced that Xiaoan lacked experience. He ordered the Neverwinter spider to use the terrifying light, and something strange began to happen to the hero's body. He can't move and doesn't understand what's happening. He was overcome by an extremely unpleasant feeling of fear. It seems like they are afraid of something, because soon the priest removed this effect from the guy. Xiaoan had already gotten used to his form, and advised his opponent to be more careful. When gods fight, mortals can only suffer. Something dripped onto Lao Duan's shoulder and they all turned around, sensing that there was someone behind them. They started running and there was no time to be distracted. Xiaoan was now completely uninhibited, and could fight to his heart's content. He rushed into the attack. Explosive turbocharge, absolute flame. The guy increased the amount of spiritual energy. He realized that the red-winged crow's spiritual energy was overloading his body. The priest was shocked that he couldn't suppress his attack, and realized that this bronze-ranked guy was full of secrets. He was becoming more and more interested in it. Xiaoan was glad that he showed his face, and the priest decided that the hero was worthy of seeing his full power. He began to merge with the mother of all spiders. The adventurers were completely horrified. They did not understand what was happening. Let's start the second round. The priest believed that Xiaoan was not experienced enough. The hero fell to the ground without strength. The priest wanted the boy to feel the real difference in their powers. He began calling the hero to come with him, which angered the guy even more. But then Chi-Min appeared, saying that this guy belonged to them. Behind her stood a certain creature, a ground beetle. She shouted that they had their own scores to settle with Xiaoan. She ordered her spirit beast to go into battle. But Lao Duan noted that the creature was too weak for such an opponent. Moreover, Qi-Ming had more than one ace up his sleeve. The hero used the invisibility ability with the help of the magma chameleon. The priest did not understand where this insect came from. It immediately covered Xiaoan, and they disappeared together. The guy needed urgent help, Sasha needed to do it, and Qi-Min decided to detain this ironhead for now. Jiqing was given the task of examining the boy, but he did not understand why the adventurers were helping him. The thing is, Qi-Min didn't want to remain in his debt. Besides, she had long wanted to give this ironhead a good beating herself. The ground beetle and the priest clashed in a duel. After examining him, the girls realized that something was wrong with the hero's body. It was strange. It's some kind of connection with his talent. He is able to merge with his spirit beast. But this form is not complete. Most likely he was injured because his spiritual energy was limited. He needed to establish the flow of this energy, and then he would be able to achieve his final form. The girls decided to begin the operation. This surprised and scared Xiaoan a little. Sasha reassured him, saying that it wouldn't hurt. She dug her claws into his body and the guy was pierced with hellish pain. Apparently, this was the final form of his fusion, which surprised himself. It was a rather strange feeling. A small reminder appeared. Now he can use the Phoenix Flame. This is Little Phoenix's talent. The hero didn't even expect the system to remind him of it. Meanwhile, the confrontation between the priest and the ground beetle continued. Qi-Min was worried about her animal as she watched what was happening. But suddenly a heavy hand fell on her shoulder, and a voice said that it would take care of the priest itself. It was Xiaoan. He was going to make the enemy regret ever coming to them. Min noted that this sounded quite arrogant. The hero used the Phoenix Flame. The talent was activated, and the hero entered a state of fiery sacrifice, but he did not yet understand what this meant. Each time this skill is used, depending on the amount of spiritual energy spent, the victim scale accumulates, and depending on the stage of the scale, various effects are activated in total. The first stage is Solar Flame, which enhances all fire skills. The second stage is Nirvana, which is capable of nullifying one deadly attack. This talent has various effects. It is really worthy of S rank. But what is the effect of the third stage? The priest asked the hero if he was absolutely sure of his powers. But without thinking, he attacked his opponent. The victim's progress was 47%. After a short time, the progress of the victim's scale was already 73%. And that's 100%. The hero's skills have become stronger. They even have changed names: Solar Flame, Ice Strike, Limited Food, Plenty, Solar Flame, Strong Iron, Southern, Quilted Knot. The priest clearly underestimated this guy, but he wanted to demonstrate something else, in the hope of surprising the hero. But he ordered him to shut up and struck him first. The priest's evil deeds will end here. Such a powerful impact caused a powerful flash of light that could be seen for many kilometers. Meanwhile, the red-haired girl saw all this from a helicopter and realized that apparently a new tamer had appeared in the city, whose level was no lower than Diamond. The captain and assistant landed, and Feng Lang was already waiting for them. It would take too long to tell everything, so Feng Lang did not go into details. The captain understood that this noise had definitely attracted the attention of the Lord of the Rainforest. The adventurers were surprised by the protagonist's abilities and waited for him to finally come out to them. They started calling him to see if everything was okay. He didn't understand what was happening. Bleeding is a side effect of the fire sacrifice, occurs due to high blood pressure, accompanied by dizziness and weakness. He was angry at Sasha for not telling him about the side effects, but she simply smiled and suggested discussing it later. But everything didn't go according to plan. The Lord of the Rainforest actually paid attention to them, so they had to escape from there as quickly as possible. Some vines are immediately replaced by others, no matter how much you chop. Ji-Ching even suggested leaving the guy here if their plan failed. The heroes found themselves cornered. The vines began to rise higher and higher, intertwining with each other, and finally the Lord of the Banana Jungle stood before them. They found themselves trapped inside the body of the Lord of the Jungle. It was necessary to understand what was going on with the signal. Unfortunately, Ji-Ching couldn't contact Feng Luan. The signal was too weak. Moreover, in such conditions, they will have enough oxygen for about 30 minutes. Min was furious that she was being so useless and always leading her comrades to certain death. The hero advised her to conserve her strength, because anxiety would only use up even more oxygen. He also added that Min is their leader. "Just look at your expression," he continued to say. "Have you ever thought about what your comrades, who trust you completely, feel at such moments? And the more critical the situation, the calmer you should be. But more importantly, you need to trust those who believe in you." Feng Lang was already in the helicopter with the captain, who wanted to fight the Lord. Min and the others were missing, and this was the only clue. Finding them would be extremely difficult. Suddenly, Feng Lan received a signal that the heroes were stuck inside the Lord of the Rainforest. Great, all that's left is to open it. The captain called the Scarlet Demon Gorilla to come out. And also it was necessary to apply the merge. The girl with wild eyes rushed down. She moved deftly down the vines. And a moment later she dealt a crushing blow to this creature. Min saw this red lightning and began to guess what was going on. In front of her, indeed, stood her older sister, who greeted her sarcastically. Min rushed towards her with all her speed to hug her. But then she received an aggressive blow to the head. She was angry that Min continued to call her big sister, even though they were already quite old. Xiao An asked if their captain was always like this, but Lao Duan said that they were already used to it. The captain ordered everyone to climb the stairs as quickly as possible. The Lord of the Rainforest is recovering extremely quickly. And she also gave orders to Feng Lan to lift them up. Almost everyone had climbed up, but the captain was still below. She screamed that they needed to get out as quickly as possible. The Lord begins to recover. It happened much faster than the girl thought. And suddenly she broke loose and flew like a stone straight into the Lord's mouth. Min didn't have time to lend her a helping hand. But the captain was not worried at all and told everyone else to calm down as well. Somehow she managed to grab hold of one of the vines, with the help of which she was able to push off and make a huge jump straight into the helicopter cabin. Xiao An was amazed by such dexterity and remarked that Sister Qi Ming was a hottie. When everyone calmed down, Capine sat down opposite the guy and began to question him. She thanked the hero for his help and introduced herself as Qi Xiaoxia, nicknamed Scarlet Sunset, a gold-level beast tamer. The guy responded by giving his name and saying that he was a bronze-level beast tamer. The hero thought, she has such power and still bears the surname Chi. Perhaps she is somehow connected with the Chi family from the city of Red Wings. The girl asked him if he was from the Bai family in Bailin City. He replied yes, his grandfather was Jing Chong. She immediately ran up to him and asked if Xiaoan knew that when she was a mercenary, she met a huge number of city lords. And they work with Mr. Bai quite often. He is their regular customer. But there are those who pretend to be members of the Bai family to deceive them. And he was the first one who dared to claim that he was a young member of the Bai family, and the last such pretender was fed to wild animals. We still need to check whether this guy is lying or not. Suddenly the girl said that it seemed to be true, but the guy himself did not understand what was wrong with her. Chimin asked her sister to be careful with him, and then she asked where his girlfriend was. Xiaoan sighed heavily. It was a tense battle, and he almost forgot about her. The hero opened the door, and a purple crystal appeared in front of him. He didn't understand what was happening, but he saw Gu Bai. In fact, the guy placed her in the space for his animals, and the girls did not understand where he learned to do this. Nobody understood what was wrong with her, but the girl clearly needed help. They had never seen anyone put a human in an animal space before. These crystals are very similar to soul stones. Apparently this is some form of self-defense, most likely due to the strong aura of Xiaoan's spiritual space. Sasha, as a doctor, couldn't say for sure, because there was no suitable equipment. For this, she would have to return to the base. It was decided to return to the city. In the unusual room, a voice announced that it had called everyone here for 2 reasons. This voice belonged to the High Priestess of Solaris. Firstly, they confirmed Arthur's death, the place of the incident between the city of Balin and the city of giant trees in the banana forest. She wanted to hear everyone's opinion on this issue. She addressed the second High Priest, Diego Barro, and the third High Priest, Lilith. Also there were the fourth High Priest, Mephisto, and the fifth High Priest, Asmodan. But whoever it was, they had to make him pay. The High Priestess asked Asmodan to deal with it without attracting unnecessary attention. Secondly, she wanted to discuss the future of their people. Recently, astrological forecasts had changed, which made her uneasy. This is a sign that Queen Arachnid is gradually entering hibernation. The Holy Eucharist is entering the era of the lunar veil. Following the Cajamarca massacre, the Spider Queen's sacred body has been in a blazing sun state for the past 25 astronomical cycles, and it is unclear why she chose to hibernate. The people in the palace are also indignant. According to past laws, the transformation of the holy body into the state of the lunar veil occurred once every 90 astronomical cycles. But there is a theory. Perhaps this is connected with astronomical phenomena, or the Spider Queen needs to reincarnate. Whatever it is a matter of life and death for the Shining Sun sect. There is no room for error here. The second High Priest said that the cult members would search for the Spider Queen. You have to be careful. The Moonveil sect is not an ordinary group of people. But without the blessing of the Spider Queen, their powers are not so terrible, Lilith noted. Mother of all spiders, live forever, they all said in one voice. There were 2 left in the arena, and Lilith asked Asmodan if she was free today. No, I'm not interested in you, the girl answered sharply. But he began to refuse, saying that he just wanted to discuss something. But she simply turned away and called Haydn after her. And Lilith ran after her, asking to listen to him. Raising his hands, he said that he would not interfere, since the priestess had personally entrusted her with this task. But there was a question. Did she ever wonder why Arthur died on the High Priestess's building, even though everyone knew he was invisible? There is no trace left of Arthur. The High Priestess knows about Asmodan's abilities, and no matter how you look at it, it turns out that she is sending her to her death. And as she herself said, the stars change their positions, and in the chaos, only the strongest will survive. He was not afraid that the girl would convey these words to the priestess, because he knew that she was not an obedient tool, but an intelligent person. Meanwhile, our heroes rushed to get Gubai to the hospital. They quickly connected the girl to the device. As long as her vital functions are stable, her life is not in danger. But it was unknown when she would come to her senses. Even Sasha did not know how to wake her up. The captain was confident in Sasha's abilities, and advised him not to lose heart. Besides, she had a couple of acquaintances who could help. The hero immediately said that he wanted to meet them. They walked down the corridor and Xiaoan wondered why this had happened, since he had used this technique before. Perhaps because Gubai had spent too much time there now. But no. Why now? His hands started to hurt again, and only the words kill were spinning in his head. Qi Xiaoxia turned to look at the guy and asked if he was listening to her. She abruptly opened the door and started calling for Hussein to help. The male voice replied that he had already told her that he was busy. In fact, he was busy eating ramen. The captain added that her friend needed the help of someone who understood spirit animals. Xiaoan himself could not understand what was happening and what was happening to his thoughts. And Hussein, looking at him, realized that the guy apparently needed other help. But the hero suddenly shouted that he did not need help from the spider cult demon and created a powerful explosion. The situation seems to be at a stalemate. The essence of his spirit beast is destroyed. The core is in disarray. Apparently he swallowed something unclean, so the beast evolves into a ferocious one. He got stuck in the doorway, and Hussein offered to help him out. He began to glow and chant some kind of spell to the mother of spiders. He asked for strength to help the younger one. It was the call of the tree spirit. This creature sat on the man's head, and he noticed that he liked it. He should forbid him from eating spiritual stones before going to bed. He asked Xiaoan not to worry, and said that he would get him out soon. He asked Mu Ling, his animal, to use the windshell on him. Such power could only be used to save the world and help people, the man thought. But when it comes to naughty children, it's worth giving them experience. The captain was worried that he had hit her too hard, but Hussein assured her that it was necessary. But apparently he really did go too far. The guy is out cold. Hussein offered to help her get to the village. But the girl simply wanted compensation for the damage, and for him to simply pay for the transportation. In place of Xiaoxia, he was already lying in a bathtub filled with some kind of green liquid. Two unknown silhouettes stood above him and tried to understand whether he had come to his senses. "I'll wake him up," the girl said, and stuck her fingers into his nose. Xiaoxia immediately jumped up in surprise. He did not understand what was happening and what this strange liquid was. It was a natural essence, the origin of which is unknown. It restores physical and spiritual energy, and at the same time has a calming property. The girl turned to a guy named Josh and asked how he could treat the guest of the great priest like that. And then they began to discuss that Xiaoxia was an alien guest, since his pupils were round, and it was strange. "You're awake," Hussein exclaimed, still eating his ramen. Xiaoxia was frightened and shouted that he was one of the members of the spider cult, but the man did not understand what he was talking about, saying that outsiders always call things by the wrong names. And then he asked if the hero really wanted to continue standing naked in front of him. The girl handed him a sheet to cover himself and avoid catching a cold. After getting dressed, Xiaoxia continued asking who it was and what was going on. Suddenly a stone flew at the hero's head. It was one of those guys. He was calling him in this way to follow him. He didn't understand anything at all, but after the door opened, the guys invited him in and called him a dear guest. What he saw behind the door greatly surprised the hero. It was some kind of unusual place underground. They grabbed him by the arms and dragged him somewhere. The girl explained that the priest was waiting for him in the temple and pointed out the direction. She handed him some kind of spider-shaped bracelet and showed him how to put it on correctly. Xiaoxia decided to obey, although it was all very strange.